Your new senator. Yes, that is. Good morning. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and it'll be led by Abe Dunn.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the 263rd annual meeting of the town of Hartland. I am Matt Dunn, and I have the honor of serving as your moderator. Town meeting in Vermont is one of the few opportunities in the country where a community comes together to engage in meaningful discussion of the issues facing that community and vote in person on meaningful financial decisions that have implications on our daily lives, including our tax rates. In Hartland, these discussions have been known to sometimes be intense, but always civil, as we will return to being a community whose strength is derived from our commitment to each other despite differences of opinions and politics. As a country, we are in a tumultuous state of transition as political norms, global alliances, and approaches to governing are being questioned and disrupted in real time. Regardless of whether you believe these are treacherous or long overdue, the disruption is one that will be affecting our lives in the near future. In this time of uncertainty, we in Hartland can take comfort in the tradition and the stability of the small-scale democratic process in its oldest form, an approach that is alive and well in the town of Hartland. The moderator's job is to independently and objectively oversee the smooth and inclusive proceedings before us, and I will endeavor to do so. I am bound to follow the procedures outlined in Robert's Rules of Order, Vermont state law, and with guidance from the Secretary of State. As in the past, I have asked Pat Richardson to once again serve as my parliamentarian to provide me with advice on procedural matters and rulings that may come up in the course of debate. A couple of quick reminders about the process and rules. First, only registered voters of the town of Hartland are allowed to speak and vote during town meeting without permission from the body. If you are a registered voter and plan to participate, please make sure you have signed in with our election workers in the back. Wave your hand. Yes, thank you. If you are not a registered voter of the town of Hartland, I would like you at this time to raise your hand. I'm going to use the honor system. Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, thank you. Second, we will be taking the articles in the order that were warned, unless someone makes a motion to change that order. Third, as is my charge as town moderator, I will allow only amendments that are germane to the warned article per guidance from Robert's Rules, case law, and the Secretary of State. Discussion of non-warned items can happen under Article 11, but any action taken will not be binding because they were not warned. Fourth, we have a tradition in Hartland of allowing for open debate. I will do my best to ensure debate appropriately remains on the topic of the current motion, and will also try to ensure everyone is heard, including not calling on an individual a second time before others who have not spoken have had the chance to speak. All questions are to be directed through the moderator, not directed to specific individuals. Before speaking, a person needs to be recognized. Wait for the microphone delivered by runners Abe and Aiden, and state your name. I am going to make a small exception to that because of a limit in our audio, which is that those who are in the balcony, we only have one microphone that can roam. Those in the balcony, I'm going to ask you to speak up, and I'm going to repeat whatever question you had to the best of my ability. If I misinterpret your question, please let me know, because we are recording this and we want to make sure that the question is accurately represented. Does that work for everyone in the balcony? Excellent. All right. I will also refrain from calling on people by name so that individuals who are new to town or town meeting do not feel left out. Fifth, by rule, I will read the article before entertaining a motion, which will precede debate on the motion. When debate appears to have concluded, I will repeat the article and then move on to the vote. Finally, a helpful tool to this process is something called unanimous consent. If I perceive a change in the proceedings that requires a rule suspension, usually requiring a 2/3 vote to have that rule suspension, to be non-controversial or in line with tradition, I will preface a motion with "without objection" and suggest that next step. If anyone has a concern with that action, they are absolutely allowed to object, at which point we would either not go forward with the rule suspension or go through a formal vote on the rule suspension that will require a motion and a 3/4 vote. Otherwise, I will continue to proceed. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's try that right now. We have a tradition of having our legislators provide an update from Montpelier. I have asked them to limit their remarks to 5 minutes each, which I will hold them to. We will then have a limited amount of time for questions if it feels like that is the appropriate thing to do. While State Representative John Bartholomew is a resident of Hartland, the others are not. So, without objection, I will allow our non-voting legislators to address the town, starting with Representative Elizabeth Burrows. Okay? The two of you want to come up together? The answer is yes? Okay. Come on up, and microphone is right here.
Wow, another year. Thank you. And as always, I want to express I can speak for both of us. It's an honor and a privilege to represent you in Montpelier. There's a lot going on, as always. Each year, we have 14 policy and money committees in the House, and each committee is really busy. And so each year we do a mid-session legislative update, and we've been putting it online because trying to figure out which of the activities would be of interest, and cramming it onto 2 pages just doesn't work. So I sent out the link on the website, on the listserv, and there's also, I put this up in the bulletin board, that's a QR code to find it. And you can always find that or really communicate with us on any issue by going to the legislative website. We're very easy to find. You don't even have to know our name. You just have to know what town you're in. And all of us will come up, including our senators. So anyway, there are a lot of articles there. And obviously one of the things that is really on people's mind this year is education, and education finance. So there are a lot of articles on there about that. This biennium, I've switched. I was in transportation last biennium, and this time I've switched to environment. And while the work of the Transportation Committee obviously is really important, I've really enjoyed hearing testimony about beavers and coyotes and water quality rather than paving projects. I just want to touch on, well, like I said, education is really important, and I'm very fortunate to have a district mate who has a lot of school board experience, so I'm going to leave it to her to talk about education. But I did want to, before I hand over the microphone, I did want to mention climate, because it's obviously a huge issue that's facing us, and we're already seeing the effects here, billions of dollars of damage due to flooding and severe storms. And one of the ways that we can address climate is to reduce our emissions, obviously, and transition people away from dirty, price-volatile fuels, and find more affordable ways to get around and heat our homes. And this is actually happening naturally. The global economy is slowly shifting towards renewable energy, and the transition is already happening. Vermonters who can afford to buy electric vehicles or solar panels or weatherize their house or install a more efficient heating system, they're already doing that. And once they make this transition, they're saving hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars on their home budgets. So it's the folks who can't afford to do it that are being left behind. Low to moderate income people, some older people, marginalized Vermonters, and they're being left behind, being stuck to pay the price at the pump or whatever their fuel dealer asks. And one point I want to make is over this last election cycle, there was a lot of misinformation put out there, totally inaccurate stuff. And I want to be clear, the primary goal of almost all the environmental stuff that we've passed and climate stuff we've passed in the legislature is trying to help people not get left behind, because those who can't afford are going to be really stuck as the rest of us move forward. And one thing that's really frustrating to me is our governor has proposed legislation that has essentially will undo everything we've done. So we're going to be seeing a lot of interesting dynamics in the weeks ahead. We're already halfway through the session. And how much time?
1 minute.
I got a minute left? Wow. And so I'll just mention one bill that in my committee we're taking up, and that's, does everyone know what PFAS is? Okay, well, I won't try to pronounce the name there, but these are notoriously known as forever chemicals because of their persistence in the environment. And there are thousands of products that have PFAS in them, and they've got a clear human health impacts: cancer, reduced fertility, developmental effects, endocrine and immune system disruption. So we've got a bill that is going to expand the number of products that are being made that are going to be banned in Vermont. So that's one thing that my committee is working on. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my district mate, Representative Burrows, to talk about some other stuff. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak this morning. It's really nice to lay eyes on all of you in person. I'm Elizabeth Burrows. I live in West Windsor, and I serve on the General and Housing Committee. I did last biennium as well. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that the House is working on. Mostly they fall into education and housing. I'm going to start with education because it's kind of an all hands on deck. And I will start with, if you have been reading the listserv, I have put in a bill to try to alleviate some of the taxes in Hartland by removing the tuitions from under the excess spending threshold and also capping high school, public school tuitions. I have no idea whether that bill will move, but we're pushing hard. Excuse me. So in other areas of education, a lot of the committees in the House have been working on various aspects of education. Of course, the governor released his 174, I think, page bill last week, and the Education Committee has been trying to read it, and they didn't have a chance to really address it formally before the break. But a lot of the bills that concern education have to do with finance, governance, and structure. And our House Education Committee is working on governance and structure, while our Ways and Means Committee is looking at how education is funded perhaps through a universal a new funding formula that includes a flat rate for every student in Vermont, with some add-ins for each individual district. But the other thing that they're looking at is the things that we have talked about before, which are things that drag the education fund. And also, well, one of those things is the income sensitivity, which last year was lower than it should have been. It's been decreasing over the last 5 years. And they're looking at a new way to kind of systematize how that amount is calculated each year. And meanwhile, in the Agriculture Committee, they are looking at updating the current use law. Meanwhile, in the Commerce and Economic Development Committee, they're looking at how to help education through career and technical education. And likewise, for housing, the Commerce Development Committee and Economic Development Committee is looking at ways to bring more building tradespeople online, which although I have served on general and housing for a couple of years, this year I really got to learn a lot about the true deep complexities of our housing problem. And one of them is that a lot of builders left the trade after 2008, and what we're left with is people who build high-end housing and fewer people who build the middle-range housing, and that is a problem if we want to build more middle-range housing. So in my committee, in general and housing, we have been working kind of in parallel with Senator Clarkson's committee, and we have come up with a committee bill which includes a lot of different things, including money for infrastructure, ways to streamline permitting for building, and also to streamline the appeals process. And of course, further developing programs like the Vermont Housing Improvement Program and and 2 studies. I'm getting close.
We're done.
Okay, and 2 studies. And that's about it. Please write to us or contact us if you have any questions. We are always glad to hear from you.
Great.
I forgot to mention, the legislature's doing a survey. There's another QR code and a poster out there. This is on education, and we need to hear from people across the state about what you think as we try to reinvent education. I'll send this out on the listserv, the link.
Thank you, John. We will now have our 2 of our 3 senators joining us, Joe Major and Allison Clarkson.
Good.
Normally we begin in applause, but no.
You are shameless. You are shameless. It's a good thing you're cute. I'm Allison Clarkson, and you are?
Joe Major.
And we are 2 of the 3 senators that represent you. We represent the Windsor District. It is just a joy to be here on town meeting day. I love celebrating town meeting and our great moment of community gathering. And you should know that Vermont ranks #2 in the country in terms of public engagement, which is really a wonderful thing, and I ascribe it totally to our tradition of town meeting. I serve you as chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. Elizabeth and I partner my sister committee in the House. And we face, and I also serve in the afternoon on Senate Government Operations. We face 3 big challenges this year in the State House, and we face them together in our communities. The first is federal uncertainty. 1/3 of our $9 billion state budget is federal money, 1/3. Some departments are entirely funded by federal money. Our Department of Labor, for example, is 90% funded by federal money. Our Agency of Human Services, so many of the things many of our Vermonters rely on, 3 Squares, SNAP, low-income assistance in heating their homes. These are all programs that are heavily funded by federal money. The The treasurer has put together a task force to address the vulnerabilities that we face, and the administration's working with them, as is our legislative council and JFO, so that we can identify the areas we are most vulnerable. But I will tell you, we do not have enough money to fill all the gaps that may come through the dike of federal divestment of funding. So we are in deep trouble on many things that we care a lot about. The second area John and Elizabeth spoke to and addressed, which is we heard loud and clear that our taxpayers and our constituents are needing property tax relief. I am not sure we heard loud and clear that we need total transformational educational system reform. But we are, one in many ways relies on the other. And so we are looking at, we began with the governor's transformational plan. We're looking at that. As Elizabeth said, it has three big areas: governance, delivery, governance being the district sizes, delivery being the sizes of our classes, and the financing system. I just want you to know we are committed to providing property tax relief this year and next year. Even if it isn't the perfect new formula, we will have tax relief this year and next year as we develop whatever the new design of our educational system will be. So you should know that. And then the third area that we're really working on is, of course, our committee work. And to that end, Elizabeth spoke a bit about our housing work. Our big housing, my committee is doing a big committee housing bill, some labor bills, and an economic development bill. The economic development bill is really focused on small business and entrepreneurs, expanding our resources for those and helping grow them. And we have some specific needs in those areas. Housing, we just got challenged last night big time on housing because we now have a 25% tariff on our biggest trading partner in Vermont, which is Canada. And we are just really now going to have a really challenging time, even with the low-hanging fruit of our Vermont Housing Improvement Program and our ADU program, because lumber is going up 25% today. So that is going to be a huge challenge. But we're looking at creating for our rural towns a project-based infrastructure financing system so that smaller towns can put in small systems to build small additional units of housing in our village centers. And all the way, we're looking at that all the way to developmental disabilities and finding long-term solutions for people who need supportive housing. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joe. We're working hard. And go to our website because it's got lots of great information.
Thank you. My name is Joe Major. I am the junior senator for this district. I serve in the Agriculture Committee. I am the vice chair, as a matter of fact, as I throw my voting sticker at you. I am the vice chair of the Agriculture Committee, as well as the member of the Institutions Committee, which handles our government buildings as well as our corrections and also now IT. I do want to say something before I go any further. Matt and Phil, when I started this journey to decide whether I was going to run, I actually went and spoke to them about my chances, particularly in this community, and they said that I had a pretty good chance. So if I fail, it's because of them. So you have them to blame.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
You're welcome. Well, I am. But seriously, Senator Clarkson mentioned housing. And one of the things that we are doing right now is looking at the Windsor Correctional Facility. And we are paying for that. And it is absolutely empty right now, not drawing any use whatsoever, but we are still paying for that. So I am going to begin to try to put some kind of housing in that. We have a study that we have facilitated, so I'm going to begin to look at that and see if we can use that for some kind of housing. That's one thing as far as our institutions, our women's correctional facility in South Burlington, quite frankly, is a mess. And when I saw it for the first time, I was taken aback. We are looking at, right now, building a new women's correctional facility in the Essex area. We are working with that town to see if we can facilitate that as well. The other thing is data privacy that we are working in institutions. All of you, I would suspect, do some social media or go on the internet. And if you put any of your information on there, you have your information sold to anyone. We want to, in essence, stop that. We want to make sure that you know if your information is being sold, and if it is, that there is some ramifications from the social media companies or from any kind of internet companies that work through that. You're welcome. I do want to touch a little bit on education as well. Senator Clarkson said that there will be some transformative changes, and I will tell you that there will be. There more likely than not will be some consolidation of schools. The governor has come with 5 districts. I do not think that will pass either the House or, and I know Senator Burrows is over there shaking her head, the House or the Senate. The Senate is also looking at consolidation as well. Consolidation in some form probably will happen. How that comes to fruition, I cannot tell you intelligently right now. But it almost has to happen in some way, shape, or form. The issue that we will fight through is what that will be. And I use the word fight because there will be some kind of fight on that. One of the things that I am fighting for also is universal school meals through the schools. Now that we have it in our schools, if we took that away and say we want a means testing, because it sounds good, you know, the people that can afford it should pay for it, and it sounds good, but in actuality, if we take it away, it will cost us more. Each municipality, each school district will have to pay $100,000 in administrative costs if we now take that away and then we have a means testing. So we want to save you money. We want you to, I want to be reelected at some point. So I don't want you to, you know, go on and say, hey, Joe, you've raised my taxes. But more importantly, I want Vermonters to feel that they have a sense of affordability. I want new Vermonters, because when I came here, I was called a flatlander, and that's kind of still. So I got to tell you the story real quick. I was
Senator.
What is it? 5 minutes?
It is 5 minutes.
Ah.
And in the interest of you not failing and Phil and my reputation being harmed, I'm going to thank you for being with us today.
I'm a politician. I pontificate.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, moving on from Montpelier to our community, I'm going to ask the Select Board, starting at the far end, with Tom, to introduce themselves, and then when we get to the chair will provide some remarks before we get on with the orders of the day.
Tom Kennedy.
Please, there's a request to stand up. Oh, sorry. Yes, so everyone can see you.
Tom Kennedy.
Hello, Jim Riley. Trace Tancredi.
Clyde Jenny.
Phil Hobby. As Matt said, I'd like to have a few remarks before we begin, but before that, I want to make sure folks recognize our finance director, Martin Dole, hiding back behind the column there. Thank you. And hiding in the middle of the room with his head down, John Broker Campbell, who is our town manager now for 13 months. So, thanks, Matt, for the chance to just talk. Good morning. In previous years' opening remarks, we have taken time to thank all the staff and the many volunteers of town organizations. For those staff and volunteers, we thank you. You are the warp and weft of the fabric that is our town. I also want to thank all of you for being here today, for being engaged in our community. This is a little bit of what Matt sort of said, but let me repeat. For the past weeks, our national political scene has been, how do I describe it, filled with turmoil. We all come to today's gathering with different perspectives on recent developments, but we share one thing in common: commitment to our town. To illustrate how we might take inspiration from a few Vermonters, I will briefly reference two individuals. George Seldes lived in Hartland for many years, sat in the audience here. As a journalist in Europe, he wrote for the Chicago Tribune and eventually published his own newsletter named In Fact. He covered the rise of Mussolini, Franco, Hitler, Lenin, and the corruption in the Vatican. He wrote about the evils of tobacco. He received many professional journalism awards and died in 1995 at the age of 104. Despite Seldes's global reach, he was engaged in our local community. In looking at various writings of his life, I found a transcript of an interview of Seldes by Mark Greenberg for the Green Mountain Chronicles in 1987. Seldes talks about living in Hartland and describes aspects of his life here, such as the beauty of having kind and friendly neighbors. The retired nurse who lived across the road from him and visited him, and they set up a singling where he could flip his porch lights so she would come over. Mrs. Ambrose, the author, who gave him a ride once a week to Baker Library, and his attendance at town meetings where he listened and always voted. He stated, "I think that town meetings are a great thing." Seldes wrote that he met George Aiken at Aiken's nursery when he and his wife went to buy flowering plants. Aiken was our state governor from 1937 to 1941, and then served as our US Senator from 1941 to 1975. In an open letter that Aiken wrote, excuse me, that Aiken wrote to the Republican National Committee in 1937, he discussed the disarray of the Republican Party. I found a lot of parallels here with the Democratic Party today, but let me not wander. He wrote, "But there still is in the hearts of the great majority of our citizens a love of liberty that does not die, a desire to bring order out of the confusion, a will to make workable those proposals upon which the spotlight of time focuses our attention as desirable, and the courage to discard the great mass of unworkable or premature theories, dreamed by dreamers and seized by opportunists as a vehicle on which they may rise to power." Seldes liked Aiken for his common sense, his ability to offer solutions that often were not in favor, and above all, the fact that Aiken placed the love of his country above his political party. So as we start today's meeting, I come with a mindset influenced by these two men. Critical thinking, respect and appreciation of your neighbor, and a willingness to bridge the partisan divide, and above all, an appreciation of our town and the town meeting. I look forward to listening to and learning from all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Also in tradition, we are going to do not one, but two awards by organizations in the community before we get to the articles before us. The first is going to be the Conservation Commission Award.
Good morning. Happy Mardi Gras. I'm Rob Anderegg, and I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission here in Hartland. Could the other members that are here stand up? These folks work really hard, but it's always behind the scenes, and so they don't receive the recognition they should. Last year at town meeting, I came before this body and asked the voters to approve $100,000 to aid in the purchase and conservation of the Pole property up the road. I'm pleased to announce that thanks to the generosity of more than 40 individuals and families and grants from both the town of Hartland and from the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, Conservation Housing Board. 10 days ago, the Upper Valley Land Trust closed on that deal, and so we now have a 75-acre public park within walking distance of Hartland Village. Yes, thank you. That leads into our conservation award this year. Every year we try to recognize an individual that has contributed to conservation in Hartland in a significant way. And I can't think of a more significant way than making this public park available to us for now into the future. So our award this year is to Timotheus Pole, who unfortunately passed away a few days after town meeting last year. So the award is posthumously given to Tim. Mr. Pole purchased the property from Ilse Bischoff, for whom Bischoff Lane is named, and they became friends. They were both from Germany. They had a shared interest in art and art history, and so they were good friends. Tim purchased the land from Ilse, and he divided his time between Germany and here in Hartland. He always loved that property, and he had a dream that it would be protected in its current undeveloped state. So that was a good first start, but there's another level of this story that I want to bring in here. The conservation of that property in the way that it has occurred would not have happened without the intervention of another Hartland resident, Andrea Ambrose. And so we want to have her share in this award this year. Andrea became friends with Tim through Hartland Winter Trails, which is centered around that Pole property. And 15 or 20 years ago, Andrea began talking with Tim about ways that he might conserve the property. Tim, although he had this dream of conservation, he was a little naive in how things worked in the United States. And so it was really through discussions with Andrea and her introducing him to the Upper Valley Land Trust that this process came about in the way it did. And so I also want to recognize Andrea because her tireless advocacy and fundraising was a big part of making this project happen. So I have two certificates here, one for Tim and one for Andrea. Andrea is going to accept both of them and send the one for Tim to Germany. But the first one reads, in memory of Timotheus Pole, whose tremendous generosity and extraordinary vision led to the creation of an exceptional public park that will be enjoyed by all for generations to come. And the second one reads, Andrea, in recognition of her tremendous work to conserve the Pole property, this beautiful land will be loved and enjoyed by many for years to come, thanks to your efforts. Presented with gratitude on this day of March 4th, 2025 at the Hartland Town Meeting.
humbled. I thought this award was just going to Tim, so I've got sweaty hands now, but it started as an idea and it became a dream a long, long time ago. And it really took an ocean between us, a pandemic, and many hurdles to get over. But it really was something that I am so pleased has finally come to fruition. What I lament the most is that Timotheus is not here to accept this in person because I miss him dearly. He was a great friend and a great member of this community. Though he grew up and was born in Germany, he always felt a real strong tie to this community. But he always felt that he was an outsider looking in. I think now, today, though, he really has become a part of this community. And through his efforts, we can all enjoy this beautiful property that he so well maintained after Ilse Bischoff passed it on to him. So he now passes it off to all of us and to all of you. And it was really all of you, everyone in this community, that made it happen. So thank you all.
Thank you, Rob, for keeping this tradition moving forward. And in I believe, a new award? Yes? Okay, so Aging in Hartland is going to be providing an award, and Vicki Lawrence will be presenting. Nope, it's over here, over here, over here. Oh, you got the award. I see. Sorry. Award, Mike. There you are. All yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, everyone. My name is Vicki Lawrence, and I'm a board member of the nonprofit organization Aging in Hartland. We believe that healthy aging is key to a healthy community. Aging in Hartland, or AIH as we are called, is a network of your friends and neighbors connecting residents age 60 and over to resources helping them to continue to find meaning, connection, and support services as they age in their own home in a community they love. AIH strives toward this mission, providing community nurses addressing seniors' health and medical issues, offering social and educational programs, providing volunteers who deliver Meals on Wheels to Hartland residents, assisting with transportation, and assisting with home service needs, all of this free of charge. AIH is a volunteer-run organization of neighbors and friends who are willing to help. Without volunteers, AIH would not survive. Our busy home service program has volunteers who assist seniors with needs such as a call we got, I'm out of firewood and have no heat. Our volunteers locate, pick up, deliver, and stack firewood. They also cut up and split donated logs or trees for this program. Home service volunteers have shoveled snowy paths and steps, installed grab bars for safety, or assist with small household projects. For jobs that require it, AIH locates or refers for professional assistance. We greatly appreciate all our wonderful dedicated volunteers whose service strengthens our community. But today, Aging in Hartland recognizes one volunteer, our first Outstanding Volunteer of the Year, Marty Bannock. How about that? That's wonderful. I have to say something about it first, in case people don't know. Okay. When Aging in Hartland wanted to recognize a Volunteer of the Year, it was clear that Marty has the characteristics of a valuable volunteer for one society. That is boundless energy and a love for helping others. Even in retirement, Marty continues to be busy helping his wife and operating their local produce farm, as well as having, I understand, a side hustle growing shiitake mushrooms. Although this sounds like a man too busy to be much help as a volunteer, that is not the case. Our Volunteer of the Year makes himself available to help in whatever way he can. He substitutes on short notice for Meals on Wheels drivers who are unable to deliver their route. He shovels one ambulatory challenge senior's doorway when the roof snow blocks it. He locates and gathers available firewood donations for the heat challenge, sometimes actually cutting up a tree and splitting it into logs and delivering and stacking the wood. He has even taken on the challenge of paddling out in a kayak to fix a pond drain. In many ways, Marty exemplifies what is the spirit of Hartland. On behalf of AIH, it gives me great pleasure to present you, Marty, with Aging in Heartland's Outstanding Volunteer of the Year.
This is a wonderful award. I had no idea, and I feel I have no idea that I would be recognized because there's so many others in this community that do much more than I. And I just try to be the fill-in guy when needed. So there are others that are certainly more worthy of this award, and hopefully they'll be recognized soon. But thank you very much, everybody, and I hope more of us can all pitch in and keep this fine community functioning and helping our seniors. Thank you.
And speaking of aging in Hartland, I am going to employ a device for the first time. No comments, Nancy. Anyhow, with those two awards, I am going to bring us to orders of the day. So, Article 1, to elect by Australian ballot town officers for the ensuing year. Polls will be open at 7 a.m., or have been open, were opened at 7 a.m., and will close tonight at 7 p.m. The positions for Australian ballot voting are town moderator for one-year term, lister for 1 3-year term, select board 1 3-year term, select board 1 2-year term, library trustee 1 3-year term, and a second library trustee 1 3-year term. There is no action to be taken on Article 1, so I am going to move on to Article 2. Article 2, shall the town vote to appropriate $122,000 to support the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department? Do I have a motion to approve Article 2? Okay. Please state your name. Oh, thank you. Couldn't quite hear. Do I have a second? Okay. You have to speak loud enough, and we're not going to run the mics for the, we're going to try not to. I will try. So Kate Donahue made the motion. Andrea Ambrose seconded the motion. So I will be repeating just so that they can hear on the JAM television as well as for the notes. It is true. It is true. You did not have cable access at that time, but it is. Okay, so the Article 2 has been moved and seconded. Before we go on to any further discussion, I think it's appropriate to have a presentation from our fire chief.
I'm going to try standing on the left this year. Yeah, left. I'm your volunteer fire chief, John Sanders. For those of you who I haven't met, I've been serving for, I think, 17 years. And it's been a real privilege. This is a great group of people, and we're happy for every minute of every volunteer that we get. If you don't mind going back for just a second, that is the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department as they showed up on the 4th of July Old Home Day Parade, along with West Windsor and Windsor Fire Department, who we work very closely with in our mutual aid group. Thank you. These are our current more active volunteers. Our roster is a little bit bigger than this. We have 29 members shown here. 16 of them, circled in red, are both fire and EMS certified, which is a significant training requirement. We went on 150 calls in 2024, and those with the yellow names are the newest members. And I wanted to call out Bradley Bowers, Scott Bowers' son, and Ian O'Brien. They just passed their Fire 1 certification, and Ian's proceeding into Fire 2, which is a huge donation of their time, and we're really proud to have certified firefighters on our department. So thank you. The trending this year is down slightly in overall call volume, but so the way these are categorized is red is some kind of fire, blue is some kind of crash, and gold is everything else. Helping the rescue squad with a lift assist, going to wires down, helping with an appliance malfunction, something. We do a lot of unusual other calls. The blue with the snowflakes is crashes on the interstate. I'm pleased to say that the overall crashes are down, and I credit our dispatch center and the Vermont State Police for responding to these and making a determination of whether or not we need to actually be out on the interstate. Fire calls are up slightly. We had this is through 2024. This year, I think we're already at our, I want to say 55th call for the year, and a number of them have been fires, both outside of Hartland and in Hartland. And we've had a number of really, I would say, really lucky saves. So that little, put that smoke detector up in your house. It really does make a difference and gives us the early warning. So this year's off to a hard start. This is the Volunteer Rescue Squad. We're a different agency within the fire department umbrella and a different funding source here. All of these people are certified at a state license level of some sort to be medical responders, including our newest member, Nick Perry, who's a 16-year-old, and I think that's it. They went on 313 calls in 2024. Which is actually down a little bit from last year, and I've got a new slide on that. I'll go next. So we were trending upward, and I was standing up here last year saying, I don't know how we're going to continue to support this trend. I will say that the Volunteer Rescue Squad, we are an assist agency. We have a contract agreement with ambulance companies in Hartford, Windsor, and Woodstock, and those are the transporting agencies. The rescue squad goes and helps. And if the rescue squad needs more help, they can call the fire department in too. But we're there to sort of do initial patient contact and help out from there. So down a tick to sort of match 2022 numbers. This is a new slide, and I said last year I was going to try to look at the data. There's no trending here, but it's just interesting to see. In the back is 13% of our calls are for falls, and 9% of our calls in green are for lift assists, and some of those can kind of be very similar call natures. One thing I do want to call out here is we go to a bunch of different kind of calls. The big pie wedges in the front more than the little ones in the back. But it's really hard for a dispatcher to get these right in that first 911 call. And so something that might come in as difficulty breathing could be chest pain. It could even turn into CPR. Something that comes in as pain in the back could be a cardiac arrest. So it's really hard to understand, from that initial dispatch call, what's going on. And I'm going to put a plug in here. Hanover, Lebanon, and Hartford are desperately looking for dispatchers. So if you're interested or you know somebody who's interested, you get a cool background check. You get to learn all sorts of nasty stuff about everybody. But they're really looking for help. and I'd encourage you to spread the word on that. Categorizing a call like this it's a hard task. Next one. So this is the upper bar is the planned lifetime. We try to get sort of 20 to 25 years out of our trucks, and the current age is the lower bar. So our brand new forestry truck, which we ordered in 2022 and we didn't get it until August of 2024, we're calling that a year old, even though its chassis has been sitting around waiting. Our tanker is the next newest. We're really happy with how our fleet is in place right now. And then our engine one is our first new engine. The 2015 is already 10 years old. I would say that gets the most use and has the most maintenance expense. It is equipped with everything we would need on our first call to just about anything, other than four-wheel drive to get up the difficult driveways. That is, that engine we put a lot of maintenance dollars into, and that's going to be a topic I'll hit on a little bit later. And then our 13-year-old Tanker 1 actually had the box on the back is from 1999, and we put it on a new chassis in 2012. So we're trying to get that as far down the road as we can. And then our engine 2, we received as a demo truck, so I think it was a couple years old when we got it. We're looking at combining those two and reducing our fleet from 5 down to 4, and that's something we're going to do probably in a next couple of meetings. We'll be voting hopefully on that, and that there'll be some sticker shock there, and I'll talk about that. Next slide. This is kind of fun. We got rid of our 1999 forestry truck, and there is a very excited fire chief down in Sebugla, Mississippi, and with its Vermont plates on, it went to its first call, a crash down in Sebugla, Mississippi. And I should have put that picture on, because it was. So that has new life, and that is the newest truck in their fleet. So, and that's our, that's our new forestry truck up there. It's a little bit bigger, a lot smoother riding. It's got a bench seat in the back, so we can haul a few more people. It's got a foam system on it to help with water extinguishment and brush fire season. And the $23,000 we got from Sebugla, Mississippi, has landed in the Capital Reserve Fund to help us towards our next truck here. The rescue squad and the fire department had been accumulating donation funds over a number of years, and we made a decision jointly to go in halvesies on a demo set of extrication equipment that runs on battery power. And this replaces 2 gas-powered systems that are over 25 years old. They actually predate my tenure with the fire department. And these are amazing. They are cordless, so we can go anywhere with them. They outperform the gas-powered system, and we have extra batteries on the truck for those. How do they work in the cold? There's a lot of naysayers about how this was going to work, and they work fantastic. But they're really expensive. I think they were quoted at just south of $70,000, and we were able to get a demo set, and that knocked the price down to $53,000. So we've depleted our donation account at the fire department and rescue squad. And when you see that large expense in our budget, that's largely what it went to this year. Next slide. We did some really great training with our mutual aid groups this year. Pomfret had a house donated. And we did a whole bunch of evolutions in there. We did a basement rescue with a charged hose line, pulling people out of the basement. I've never seen that done before. A bunch of evolutions with a smoke machine upstairs, some emergency exits out the second floor window. Really, really great training. Next slide. This was in the paper Saturday. Made me proud. Proud dad. So Lydia and Cody and Drew all went to this while I was at Bud Vogel's funeral, and they learned a ton. Lydia said it was the best training she'd ever been to, and Lydia is now a full-time firefighter in Lebanon. And that's Phil Neely, the Enfield fire chief, watching the crew work there. And on the next slide, he quoted me saying, "You have some dynamite people. I'm very jealous, but extremely happy for you and your department." That's. Next slide. Glenda O'Connor, Matt White's wife, helped us pioneer some new fundraising efforts this year. It's really hard with all the time we give to also stand out and you know, shake a soup can out there. Aubuchon's did a roundup in November, and we were able to raise $2,000 with them. And we had our first annual cornhole tournament, which we'll try to advertise a little bit more. I didn't understand just how aggressive the cornhole community is. And I think we raised about $1,000 and probably maybe more next year if we can get the word out. And our largest source of donations come from memorial contributions and other just people making donations to the department, and that's a big piece of it. Next slide. So like new fire trucks cost a ridiculous amount of money, like more than we've been putting away in the Capital Reserve Fund, and they take a crazy amount of time to get. And so I tried to grab a few data points from our mutual aid towns. Fairleigh has ordered a new pumper for $500,000. It was ordered in 2024, but they don't expect it until 2027. Windsor is expecting a new $660,000 pumper tanker. You'll see a theme here. A lot of people are doing what we want to do. They're getting a pumper and a tanker and combining them into one vehicle because that's one less truck in the fleet. So 2+ years on Windsor's. It should be here any day now. Lebanon, Lebanon orders fancy stuff. $1.2 million. They ordered it in the Q1 of 2024, and it'll be a sort of almost 2 years to get it in the latter half of this year. And then Norwich, a little over $500,000 for a rescue pumper and a 1.5 year wait. That was I think that was a 1.5 years ago or so. So we're prioritizing maintenance right now, and you'll see if you look at our budget that we've spent $22,000 in 2022. $54,000 was put in to a number of different updating needs due to largely salt and corrosion underneath our trucks in 2023, and then we spent $33.4 thousand in 2024. Turns out diesel trucks are really expensive to maintain, and the sitting parked with you know, salt and stuff underneath them is just hard on them. We're paying a full-time Hartford mechanic, Paul Saucier, to do our work for us. We hired him a few years ago. He's fantastic. He's taking really good care, and he's finding things that might go past inspection, but we're making sure that we get it fixed so we're ready for the next emergency. We were under a long operating principle of whatever we need to do to get past inspection, and now we're doing a little bit better than that. We're also doing annual preventive maintenance and pump testing, so we know that our trucks are ready to go. And a couple of years ago, we did New Hampshire oil undercoating on all of the trucks to make sure that they are more resistant to the road grime. And I mentioned already, these are the two trucks that we would look to combine. So we have the pumping capabilities of a fire truck and the water hauling capabilities of a tanker truck in one truck. The last I heard, that was about a $600,000 investment and a 3-year wait. But it kind of depends what exactly we do and when we pull the trigger. Next slide. So our proposed budget is up primarily due to the actuals of what the vehicle maintenance is costing us. And we've been spending a little more than $30,000, but I think that's the right, I think we've been putting in the extra money and we're coming to a plateau. That's only about $6,000 per truck. And there's 5 trucks. Reducing the fleet would also help that go down. We have a brake job coming up for engine 1, our first new truck. The parts alone are $3,000, and that's just the beginning. The turnout gear, $3,500 for a set of turnout gear, plus the helmet and the radios and the pagers. So we're upping that because we put off buying turnout gear for the last year or two because we've been putting the money instead into the truck upkeep. So we're trying to match our actuals here and our needs. And then we've got $1,000 gains in building upkeep and repairs. We'd like to outfit our members with a uniform, and unfortunately we are going to a number of memorial type of services, and we'd like to present as a unified front. Sorry, I'm And then just minor increases in electricity, fuel for trucks, and office supplies, and other, and food. We like to feed our folks once in a while too. So. We just had a furnace failure up in North Hartland. It's been on the books to try to get that furnace replaced. The blower stopped working on it, so it wasn't circulating the heat, but it was keeping the station trimmed. The company showed up and said, you've actually got a cracked, I'm going to say hot box. That's being fixed today, actually. They're up there. We're switching over from fuel oil up there to a propane-powered furnace. And working with the town manager, we were able to identify some ARPA funds to help with that, which is fantastic. We're excited to switch to propane. It actually gets rid of the fuel tanks in the bay and that liability. And we're looking into, at some point, hopefully soon, doing a similar upgrade to Station 1, a more efficient boiler system there. And then I've talked already to the Engine 2 and Tanker 1 combination replacement. Be prepared to wait and be prepared for a high ticket price. I don't have those numbers yet, but the estimate a year ago was $600,000 in 3 years. So these are some repeat slides. It costs a lot to outfit one firefighter. The packs, the air packs we wear are $8,000 a piece. We have 12 of those that we maintain, 10 of those that we maintain. Turnout gear is a radio, a portable radio is $1,500. The pagers that we wear that tell us, whoops, I don't have mine. The pagers that we wear are $500 a piece. Helmets are $300, the flashlights are $150, and then we have to insure people because people do get hurt on the fire scene. 180 hours minimum for firefighter 1 training, same for EMT, and then continuing education of at least 24 hours a year for each of those certifications. And we are all volunteer. I am now getting a stipend. We voted on that last year, and that does take the pain off a little bit. Martin comes to me with a check once a month, and I take a deep breath and say thank you, and I appreciate what you guys have done and let me have that stipend. That's been good. Next slide. We are a pretty amazing nation in how many, so we have 36 million fire department calls. There's 30,000 fire departments in the country, and like 2/3 of those are all volunteer. We really are a special department, I think. We have some really good people. Everybody's in it for the right reasons. Politics completely aside, we unite and we solve other people's problems. We're there to help organize chaos. It's getting hard to keep volunteers. It's getting hard to have volunteers in the middle of the day when we're all working our full-time jobs. We're very dependent on our mutual aid system, and we help other towns when they don't have enough people, and other towns help us when we don't have enough people, and it works out. It's a good system. Next slide. We do a lot of weird things besides just fires. We don't do too much in the terrorist and active shooter events in Hartland, but we do some search and rescue. We get dogs stuck. We did 2 horse rescues this year. I should have put some slides up. That was a first for me in 25 years. My favorite was the second horse rescue where I just asked it to stand up and it did, and we walked up to the barn. Next slide. It's really helpful for us if you have those green and white active reflective 911 signs. Talk to your town manager or the town clerk and they can get you one coming if you're in a new house or you've lost yours. We need to know where your house is at night in the rain. CO detectors really do save lives. They've done it at least 3 times already this year in Hartland. There is a care registry to register like elderly and special needs people. This is changing. The 911 system is going to be taking this over. You can see the registration location is on 911. What we're hoping to do is have one unified 911 map that has all the information we as emergency responders need. So there's a place to register your information there. And then these Knox boxes, there is a web page where you can scroll down to Hartland and you can order one of these vaults to sit on your door that has your door keys in it, and we have a key to get into those. It's the same key that gets us into the bank and the library and all the other places. So we keep very good control of that key, and we have an audit trail for who's unlocked it with their special code. Next slide. Thank you very much.
Excellent. The skills and powers of our chief continue to expand each year with hoarse whispering. So thank you for the presentation. Okay, Article 2. Shall the town vote to appropriate $122,000 to support the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department? Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, we will move to a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 2. Article 3, and before I go into this, we have a series of appropriations that are to non-town nonprofits, or non-municipal nonprofits. And for those of you who are new to this, ones that have not been voted on in the past are voted on individually. And those that have been voted on in the past, the decision of the Select Board is to include them in one large Article 6. So the two that you will see today, which is Article 3 and Article 5, are pulled out because they are new. So, Article 3, shall the town of Hartland appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the Hartland Cooperative Nursery School, HCNS. Do we have someone who would like to move Article 3? Please state your name. Mary Grondin is moving Article 3. Do I have a second? Kate Donahue seconds Article 3. Is there any discussion on Article 3? So that's a procedural question. I do not know of anyone who is here. I have not been notified as anyone who's going to present on this particular article. Oh, there is someone who would like to speak to this article. Please state.
My name is Jess Pesanowski.
Great.
Do you want me to come up there?
You need to use a mic. Be careful. But you do need to use a microphone. And you are a resident of Hartland.
Yes.
Great. So there's a microphone so that people can hear you. You may need an assist. Okay. There's some things that are more important than audio. Okay.
We'll try.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I came here last minute because one of our board members couldn't attend. My name is Jess Pesanowski. I'm the president for Hartland Cooperative Nursery School. And so in the past few years, we have been operating at a loss, and we are trying to continue to offer our enrichment programs for our children. And one of the big things that we want to keep, thank you, is our program with VINs. Are you guys familiar with VINs? Okay. So we have VINs come to our school once a month, sometimes twice, and they provide a program to teach kids, like, for example, about beavers, what beavers do, or bridges and water and ice and how things work. And it's really cool for the kids. They love it. And the cost of VINs is going up this year as the cost with everything is going up. So this is one of the reasons we are asking for $5,000 from the town to continue to provide this program for our kids. So, does anybody have any questions? Oh, no questions.
That's not how it
Oh,
works,
sorry, this is my first time.
Thank you. Great. Thank you. Is there any more discussion regarding Article 3? Yes?
Ione Minot. I am just curious to know how many students are in the program and how many hours a day, how many days a week, like that.
Okay, no, we do need to go through a process, so we're going to have to trade off the mic. And so.
I believe for this year we're at 31 students total right now. And so the question was how many students are in the program? And hours, okay. So we have 2 morning classes and 1 afternoon class. Each class is 3 hours. So the morning class is from 8 to 11, and then 12 to 3.
Additional discussion on Article 3. Okay. Okay, seeing none, I will repeat the question. Article 3, shall the town of Hartland appropriate the sum of $5,000 for the Hartland Cooperative Nursery School, HCNS? All those in favor of Article 3, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 3. Article 4, shall the town authorize the deposit of $94,673 from the Highway Fund, Hydro, to the Equipment Fund? Would someone like to move Article 4? Theodore Ambrose moves Article 4. Do I have a second? Doug Linnell seconds.
Forward.
There we go.
We will get to our slide. Okay, without objection, I'm going to call on the town manager to address Article 4 without objection. Okay.
Great. So in, Martin, go to the next slide, please. Just one this time. There we go. In 2006, the select board minutes note that a sum of $87,000 from the North Hartland Dam settlement was to be put into a highway account. That money has in essence sat there since 2006. This article just moves that money from the highway hydro account to the highway equipment fund. We will talk later about the demands on the highway equipment fund. So this just puts it into an account that is more usable for the town of Hartland.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any more discussion on Article 4? Okay, seeing none, I will repeat the question. Article 4, shall the town authorize the deposit of $94,673 from the Highway Fund, Hydro, to the Equipment Fund? All those in favor of Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 4. Article 5, shall the town vote to appropriate $3,000 to support Mount Escutney Prevention Partnership, MAPP/Volunteers in Action? Do I have a motion on Article 5? Sarah Bruce moves Article 5. Do I have a second? Pierre Fournier, second. Is there any discussion?
Is there anybody here to represent this agency?
So in a point of order, there's a question, is there anyone here to represent this agency? Is there someone who can represent the agency and ideally is a resident to comment? Is there anyone? Yes? So there can be a motion to table. That is a formal motion that we can take unless there's someone who has emerged who would like to speak to this issue. Let me try that again. There is an order of these. Would you like to make a motion to table, or do you want to wait to see if there's anyone else here who would like to?
I'll wait a minute.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
I'm not here.
Please identify.
Oh, sorry, Nicole Bach. I'm not here on behalf of Mount Escutney Prevention Partnership, but I do know that they are active with the school community. I know that we have several community members who are part of that organization, and they do a lot of work in our community. And so I just want to support them since they don't appear to have anybody here for themselves.
Okay. There's another discussion here. Hold on, you need to wait for the mic. You need to wait for the mic. Yep.
Okay, Pat Mushlin. I am a person who delivers meals, and many of us are here. Oops. And I know we're connected to VIA, and they help us get shots that we have to have, and are connected with, I believe, Mount Ascutney, but it's not official, but they're there, and they are driving for the elderly people. It's all part of what we were talking about before. It's just maybe another piece of it, but we're involved.
Is there any more discussion on Article 5? Yes.
I actually am.
Please
Sarah
state your
Bruce-
name.
Sarah Bruce.
Sarah- yeah, thank you.
I am actually a volunteer for Volunteers in Action. And the primary thing I have done over recent years was medical rides and other shopping things for people that cannot get around on their own. Certainly less during COVID, but it did continue somewhat. So I know that's one major program they have is the medical and other rides, mostly for seniors or people with disabilities, what have you. And they do have a number of other programs that I read about, but I'm not going to be able to list them today. But activities, various things down, I think a lot in Windsor, but certainly very close.
Okay.
My only concern here is that if we...
Please state your name.
Linda Genovese.
Thank you.
If we vote on this and it passes, then it gets added to the great big list that is in the next article. So without information and a presentation at this time, I'm a little hesitant about whether we need to have this at this point. I will make my motion now to table this.
Okay. I'm going to ask for just a moment to make sure I understand what the implications are of tabling this motion, because as I understand it, you can table, but it's intended to be then brought up later in the meeting. You can also move to just, you can oppose the motion and vote, and the body can vote down a motion. But I just want to make sure that I'm giving you the right advice on the action that you want to take. So I believe if you want to table it to another year, what you would do is vote down the motion, as opposed to tabling it, which would be intended to be brought up at a later time. If that is, and I'm going to look to Pat to see if there's some. No? Okay, good. That is going to be my view on that particular thing. We can do a tabling to be able to, in an emergency setting, but that is the, okay. Any more discussion on Article 5? So up here.
Rob Anderegg. I think if you look in your town report, there was an appropriation last year of $2,000, and the reason this is here is because they were asking for an increase from 2,000 to 3,000.
Is there any more discussion on Article 5? Yes?
Jill Lloyd, and I just wanted to add on to Sarah Bruce. I am also a volunteer for the Volunteers in Action, and periodically I do get calls to provide transportation to like a doctor's appointment or dentist appointment for people that have mobility issues, that they have no means of transportation, and we don't have public buses here that can go pick up the individuals. So I feel like it's an important program, and it's a large volunteer base to make it happen. And I assume the increase is just because increase in costs of everything these days.
Okay. I'm going to adjust, having conferred with the process. If there is a motion to table, and there is not a specific time as to when to table, one can make a motion to table. It needs a second, and it's non-debatable. So if there is a desire to make a motion to table, you do not need a specific time. So I want to just, if that was the motion, is that a motion that you would like to make? Okay, so the motion has been made to table Article 5. We need a second. Would someone like to second the motion to table Article 5? The motion has been made by Linda Genovese and seconded by Pat Richardson to table Article 5. This is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of tabling Article 5, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. The nays appear to have it. The nays do have it, and you have failed to table Article 5. We are back to discussion of Article 5. Is there any more discussion on Article 5?
I just want to say that Meals on Wheels is included with Volunteers in Action under this article, and there's a number of us in this town that deliver meals. The Route 4, we pick up meals and take them to people 5 days a week. On Friday, they get frozen meals that last them Saturday and Sunday. There's about 20, approximately, fluctuates with people who pass away, but there's about 20 people in our community. There's 5 or 6 or 7 people who rotate, and some have permanent days to deliver, 5 days a week, meals that people really depend on. So I think this is important that we support Volunteers in Action.
Sherry Clark. I think for clarification purposes, the reason why this is a separate article versus in the appropriations is asking more money this year. That's why it has to be pulled out. That's the only reason why it's in it. So for that clarification, it would help voters to make their decision. Thank you.
Is there someone from the select board or without objection, the town manager who would like to share that, clarify that statement?
That is correct. Previously, we had done an appropriation for Mount Escutney Prevention Partnership for $2,000 and Volunteers in Action for $900. So previously, we were appropriating $2,900. The actual increase is only $100, but to Rob and Sherry's point, the increase is causing it to be pulled out.
Thank you for the clarification. Is there any more discussion on Article 5? Yep, right here. There we go. Yep.
Andrea Ambrose. Despite there not being anyone here to officially represent the organization, I think we should look beyond that. And what I'm happy to see is that there are so many elves amongst us here in this community. And there are so many folks doing wonderful work. But it takes someone organizing all of these volunteers to make it happen. And that's, I think, probably where these funds are going. But there are a lot of people benefiting in the community, and there are folks volunteering and making it happen within this community. And thank you to all those who are.
Any more discussion of Article 5? Yes. So the comment is from Jennifer Waite, and the question is, isn't there a expectation or a request that has been made for anyone who is requesting an appropriation to provide information in the annual report? Is that accurate? Okay. Would anyone like to clarify that statement before we go on to? Okay. Yes, please. Please.
I call the question.
The question has been called by Chet Pacho. That is not a debatable. That is not a debatable motion. And do we have a second for that motion? Yes. Mike Van Buren seconds that motion. So, the Article 5, shall the town vote to appropriate $3,000 to support Mount Escutney Prevention Partnership, MAPP/Volunteers in Action? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 5. Okay, we are now on to Article 6, which I will read as is required, and I will try to do so rapidly. Article 6, shall the town vote to appropriate $88,582 to support social service agencies as follows? Aging in Hartland, $28,200. Junction Arts and Media, CATV, $3,000. Cover Home Repair, $1,500. Green Mountain Economic Development, $1,694. Green Mountain Retired Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP, $200. Green Up Vermont, $200. Heartland Community Arts, $2,000. Heartland Community Food Shelf, $500. Heartland Farmers Market, $2,000. Heartland Rescue Squad, $14,500. Headrest, $1,710. Healthcare and Rehabilitative Services of Southeastern Vermont, Inc., HCRS, $3,453. Ottaquechee Health Foundation, $5,000. Public Health Council of the Upper Valley, $345. Senior Solutions, $1,500. Southeastern Vermont Community Action, SEVCA, $3,220. Special Needs Support Center of the Upper Valley, $3,700. The Family Place, $200. Tri-Valley Transit, $1,500. Vermont Center for Independent Living, $160. Visiting Nurse and Hospice, VNH, for Vermont and New Hampshire, $10,500. White River Council on Aging, $1,000. Windsor County Mentors, $2,000. Women's Information Services, Inc., $500. Do I have a motion to approve Article 6? Pierre Fournier moves, and a second. Andrea Ambrose has seconded. So any discussion on Article 6? In the back, please. Please wait for the mic. Thank you.
Mike Willis.
the Hartland Rescue Squad, I would like the chief to explain whether or not the rescue squad is actually under his command.
If Chief Sanders would care to respond.
Sort of. The Hartland Volunteer Fire Department is an agency that is the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, Inc. They are separately funded agencies, just like the Boy Scouts of America fall under the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department as a agency that looks over them, and they've raised their own money. The Rescue Squad has chosen to not change their budget. It's been $14,500 for a lot of years now. And we help each other out. Their expense is one truck and equipment for that truck. So does that answer your question? Alan Beebe is the Rescue Squad director and would be better to answer that, but Steele.
I wanted to ask that question because it seemed like they were both, and why was this broken out under Article 6 versus the fire department budget? My hat goes off to Hartland Volunteer. The entire state is screaming for volunteers, and as the chief has indicated here, cost of equipment maintenance, cost to just gear up one firefighter is tremendous. Honestly, I don't know how John's doing it with $122,000. We got to take our hat off to him for doing that. In fact, if there was any way, I would make a motion to increase that number.
I will not take that as a motion. I will not give additional advice beyond that. Is there any more discussion of the entirety of Article 6?
Chief Okaneko, on behalf of Hartland Community Arts, I have to be allowed to speak because
Or you're not a resident?
I'm not American citizen.
I'm actually, well, so what I would ask, if it's all right, is that unless there are direct questions on any of the particular articles, that we not get into a series of presentations by non-voting residents of Hartland.
I have one urgent thing to say.
I would really prefer that we
okay.
don't, if there is a question from someone from the floor, I've already talked to a couple of other people who are non-residents who want to be able to speak to articles, and I said, in the interest of moving things along, if we can wait unless
okay.
there's a
Sorry
question.
about misunderstanding.
That's okay. So.
You're not allowed to put heavy stuff on the piano.
Oh,
Sorry.
I will put that under the category of a point of order to the moderator and to the audio-visual folks, assuming that is not too heavy for the piano experts. Is that? Okay. We will endeavor to not injure the piano. It's not necessarily relevant to the, but procedurally helpful. Thank you. Okay. Is there any more discussion of Article 6? John Sanders has called the question. Do I have a second? Capatio has seconded. This is non-debatable. The question, so I will read. Oh, so you're, yes? Yes, but we go immediately to the question when the question is called, so we vote on the article. We're not voting to call the question. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So, without objection, I will not read the entire article in its entirety, but there is no other discussion or Okay, well, no, it doesn't matter, because we have called the question. I'm just going to read the beginning. Article 6, shall the town vote to appropriate $88,582 to support social service agencies as follows? If anyone has an objection and would like me to read the rest, please let me know. If not, all those in favor of Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, signify by saying nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And you have passed Article 6. Article 7. Shall the voters authorize the general fund expenditures of $2,210,907 and the highway fund expenditures of $1,635,334, of which $3,041,276,000 shall be raised by taxes? Someone like to move Article 7 before we get to a presentation? In the back? Tom Kennedy moves. Is there a second? I recognize Brian, but so Brian Sofolino will second. And with that, and without objection, I'm going to ask the town manager to make a presentation on the budget.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Martin? So before we talk about the budget, let's do a quick recap of what we did in 2024 with last year's budget. So we replaced the Jennyville Road culvert with an upsized concrete box structure you can see in these pictures. The picture on the left was I guess we can call it a culvert before the work. The picture on the right is the work in progress. And then Martin, go to the next slide, please. That is the new structure. It's significantly larger. It's actually able to capture the stream as it's going through the culvert. It's placed at the appropriate angle. Hopefully we will see less damage in future storm events. That was largely done with a grant from the Agency of Transportation. Go ahead, Martin. We also use additional grant funding to do stone line ditching, again along Jennyville Road. We focused a lot of effort in the past summer on the west side of town. This work was required as part of our municipal roads general permit from the Department of Environmental Conservation. So it's hard to see in that picture, but the ditch on the right-hand side of the road as you're going up was dug out. We placed stone for a great deal of the road there as you're going towards that culvert from the Brownsville Road. Martin? We also completed some drainage work at both Damon Hall and the rec center. So you see the picture on the left. That is the backside of the rec center being dug up. They replaced the culverts from the drain that is in the front of the building down to an outlet. It was changed so it was actually draining properly, capturing more of the water. And the work here was intended to get water away from the rec center. We've had some kind of water infiltration issues at both buildings. In the picture on the right is Damon Hall. We replaced the sidewalk down below us here. We replaced the retaining walls. Those timber retaining walls were replaced with stone. Martin, go to the next picture. You can see the retaining wall and the new drains being installed on the right there. That is the culverts and the materials for the rec center on the left. We also took up the concrete pad that was surrounding Damon Hall, so water was coming off of Damon Hall, the roof, falling 2 stories, hitting a concrete pad, splashing back towards the building. We took that concrete pad up. That was replaced by gravel. And they finished up right around Election Day in November, so they will be back this spring to check on kind of grass growth. They covered it with straw for the winter and seeded it, but we anticipate them coming back a little bit this spring to check on how things are doing. Go ahead, Martin. We also completed an engineering assessment along the entire length of the Hartland-Queechee Road. Again, this documented the existing conditions and the associated infrastructure, so looking at culverts, looking at ditches, looking at guardrails. They took approximately 50 borings up and down the road to see about the underlying condition and the base of the road. The select board has had a lot of discussions on this project in particular, and we will continue to talk about it. Go ahead, Martin. So you can see the report, which was done by Pathways Engineering, identified multiple plans of action for the town to consider for reconstruction. Chief Sanders mentioned that fire trucks are expensive, as is road construction. So in August, when the report was completed, the estimate for all the work was just shy of $6.5 million. That far outpaces what we spend per year on road maintenance. So the board, and I think everybody, we welcome the public's input on ideas moving forward for the Queechee Road. There's no action being taken this year in this budget, but it is, we anticipate this conversation to continue over the summer. Go ahead. We also looked at the covered bridges in North Hartland. So VTrans undertook a study of the older bridge, the North Bridge, the Willard covered bridge. They did that on their own. We hired a consultant to look at the Southern Bridge, or BR-21. To no surprise, both bridges are in need of repair. There are some significant deficiencies in both bridges, particularly the Willard covered bridge. That bridge work is being, the assessment and the work will hopefully be done by VTrans under their bridge program. There will be a cost share to the town, but hopefully they will take ownership over that structure, and that bridge remains in that program. The Southern Bridge, or BR-21, has less issues, but still, nonetheless, it's something that we need to consider fixing moving forward and getting a weight rating posted on that bridge for the residents who live on the north side. All right, just go back one slide. So we did a lot of work this past summer. We also repaved the Brownsville Road. Other paving was completed. Of all those projects, about just shy of $500,000, $450,000 of it or so, was done with grant funding. So we are trying to maximize tax dollars and put them to good use to matching grants. So paving the Brownsville Road was largely covered by a grant from the Agency of Transportation. We provided 20% of that money, but 20% of $200,000 is a whole lot better than $200,000. So I hope you see that we're trying to put the money, tax money, to good use. All right. Oh. Matt, do you want to take questions now?
No, I would prefer to finish and then go to discussion, and if there are questions.
Okay. So looking at this coming construction season and road maintenance season, the road crew will be out doing work on the Queechee Road, not reconstructing the Queechee Road, but kind of opening up some of the cross culverts that have gotten clogged over the years, doing some ditch work, trying to keep water off the road, because water and drainage has largely driven some of the issues that we see on the Queechee Road these days. There's additional paving that will be done. We anticipate finishing the pedestrian lights at the three corners. So the project was completed last year. At last town meeting, the town allocated money for pedestrian lights. We will get a contractor in place to put those together. We have a grant to study the Jennyville Road Densmore Hill culvert. So again, a very small and undersized structure. We will do the engineering work and then trying to continue to track down additional grant funding so we can get that culvert replaced, similar to the one that was done just up the road. Martin? We continue to work on accessibility options for town-owned buildings. In the ARPA report that was done by the town in 2022, this was highlighted as a need, kind of maintaining the buildings and making them more accessible. You saw some of the work that we did to keep water penetration away from the buildings. So now we can focus on interior work as we go through this. We're going to continue to work through the recommendations that were in the ARPA report. Again, Chief Sanders mentioned that we're using some ARPA money. I should say it's not ARPA money. It is town money that came from the American Rescue Plan Act. We use that to replace the furnace at the North Hartland Fire Station. That's happening right now. Chiho, and I hope folks see it, Tony Vendetti put together a townwide newsletter. It's upside down, the Hartland Voice. So that's an exciting kind of new addition to the town, an opportunity for us to get both town news out, folks to understand who works in the town hall, and other, other town events that are happening. Martin? Go ahead. So now we'll dive into the budget. So we're going to go backwards a little bit this year. This was the last slide in the budget presentation last year. We're going to start with it because I think it kind of gets to where the question that everybody wants to know. So this year, the budget is changing $193,961, or a 5% increase. It's important to note that when we put together the budget, we look at the consumer price index, and inflation at that time was just about 4%. So accounting for inflation at 4%, the budget is going up 1% above inflation. What that means is that with appropriations, the tax rate is going to be $701.20 per $100,000. So it's going up $14.60 over last year's budget per 100,000. Go ahead, Martin. So just, these are revenues, the general fund and the recreation fund. You'll see general fund revenues and rec fund revenues are going up slightly. The rec does a great job with summer programs. They continue to kind of pay for themselves there. And general fund revenues are going up slightly. Go ahead, Martin. General fund expenses, you can see there's kind of a significant increase. We moved the buildings and grounds staff member from the highway department over to the general fund. That is driving that big increase there. And again, inflation. So you can see that the buildings and grounds, if you look at the fifth line down, is going up 135.46%. That's simply because we moved the staff member over to the general fund. Other changes, just to touch on real quick, we did reduce the constable's hours. It's not an indication of the constable. We are contracted with the Windsor County Sheriff's Office. They've been doing a fantastic job. In an effort to kind of keep the budget in line, we did reduce the constable's hours. There was an increase in animal control officers. It is expensive to shelter dogs, and we continue to go over budget, so there was an increase there. We reduced the planning commission's budget largely because the Sunnymead appeal is not done, but almost complete, and therefore their legal expenses will go down. And then the cemetery's budget went up. You can see it went up $3,000. That is largely tree maintenance. There's a lot of overhanging trees, and trees are expensive to cut down, especially when we need to hire contractors to do the work. Martin? Highway fund revenue largely remains the same. Go ahead. And then highway fund expenses. So the highway fund is actually increasing only 0.69%, and that's with an increase in paving and an increase in transferring money out for equipment. That's offset by the fact that the general fund expenses increased because we moved that buildings and grounds staff member. So the highway stayed level, general fund took the big increase there. Martin, stay on that slide, go back just one slide for a second, Martin. You'll see that we did increase our paving fund to $300,000 a year. That's an increase of $40,000. It is expensive to pave a road. It's about $250,000 per, I'm gonna look at my notes so I don't misquote it. So it's about a half a mile to a mile for $250,000. And that's repaving, not reconstruction. So it's expensive work. So we continue to do that. We are increasing our equipment transfer out, and we talked about this with Article 4 with the hydro fund, moving that to the equipment fund. For example, we recently purchased a 10-wheel dump truck with a plow package. A 10-wheel dump truck with a plow is $275,000. So that is the going rate, and much like fire trucks, there's a 18-month to 2-year lead time on those trucks. So we're trying to stay ahead of it. You will see that we are doing additional maintenance. Martin, you can flip the slide, please. So again, that 10-wheel dump truck replacement was $274,000. Again, not to kind of repeat what Chief Sanders said, but it's expensive. We are trying to be more thoughtful in our approach to maintenance. However, these trucks get utilized on a daily basis. Road salt, they go through, they're pulling heavy equipment, they're hauling things. They take a beating, and repairs are inevitable. So the increasing the equipment fund and the movement of that money from the highway hydro fund to the equipment fund will help us to kind of stay ahead of things. And again, inflation continues to have an outsized impact on the price of everything. So again, of the 5% increase, 4% of it was largely being driven by inflation. Martin?
Okay. Is there any discussion of Article 9? Yes, please. I'm sorry, 7. Back to the devices of aging. Yes. Article
Sherry Clark, could you clarify the Mill Street bridges, please? Are they being repaired to bring them up to 2025 standards for all traffic, or are they just being brought up just for historical purposes?
Yep. Sure. So it's 2 separate projects, Sherry. So the northern bridge is being hopefully reconstructed in 2028 or 2029 by the Agency of Transportation. It's reconstructed to covered bridge standards. They will never carry dump trucks and fire trucks. They're not built. Wood deck bridges have a weight capacity limit on them. What we are going to be doing is both with the northern bridge and the quote unquote newer bridge is bringing them up to safety standards so that vehicle traffic is safe. And what we will be doing is looking at what opportunities exist to push traffic into the center of the bridge where the weight, where the load is safer. And so we can hopefully get those bridges posted with a weight rating that will be beneficial to residents and clarify any of the misunderstandings that exist around who can or cannot go across the bridges.
Further discussion on Article 7 on this side.
I saw an article about how the narrowing of the vendor market is driving up the costs of the fire trucks, and that's why we're seeing these skyrocketing costs in terms of fire trucks. Is the same true for things like the dump truck? Is there a narrowing of the supplier market? Is that what's driving these prices?
It is not. For all municipal equipment, we go out and we get 3 bids. They all come back about the same price. The real slowdown for us is who we choose to get our plow packages put on by. They're kind of the company that are up in the Burlington area. It's Viking Plow. It's a real slowdown up there. But the price is not being driven by a narrowing of the market, much like it is for fire apparatus.
More discussion?
Ione Minot. When I was on the ARPA committee, one of the concerns about this building was a moisture problem in the lower level. Was that mitigated by the improved drainage put in at the back and getting that concrete base out?
Hopefully, yes. Hopefully. That was the goal of the work. So we had an architect in 2023 do an assessment of why we were having that water penetration in the building, and the work was a result of the study that was done by the architect.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 7.
Mike Van Buren, Jennyville. My understanding of the road system in Hartland is that there are upwards of 90 miles of dirt roads. And we in Jennyville appreciate the work on Jennyville Road, et cetera. But not to be tedious for this meeting, but is there some kind of task force or a thought process in maintaining the dirt roads? Because what we're talking about here is largely paved roads. And I think, having been in this area for roughly 50 years, that off and on, that there are probably ways we can economize on keeping the dirt roads, which is the vast majority of the roads, in shape. I wonder if you have any comments about that.
Not specifically. You know, we try to grade every road once to 2 times per summer. We hit roads with chloride. We don't necessarily prioritize dirt roads in terms of maintenance. We are obligated under the municipal roads general permit to steer drainage away from water, which is what the stone line ditches was a part of. We are in good shape when it comes to that. So we have, they're called hydrologically connected road segments. So that work is being driven by which roads needed to be addressed there. But in terms of a prioritization for summer road and gravel road maintenance, we don't necessarily have one in place. We do have one for paved roads, like you mentioned, but currently not one for dirt roads. Correct. We do have, so we have lots of things that feed our decision making, including culvert inventories and road surveys that are done by the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Planning Commission. We used a consultant this year to put together a road surface management study on paved roads. So we are not necessarily, we have a plan of action for repaving paved roads, which is often not worst first, addressing the roads that we can capture and do the most work on, using money more efficiently. Again.
And without objection, I am allowing this question and answer period because I think it is useful in that without it having to go through a formal process. But yes.
John,
Please state your name.
I'm Mike Willis. Is there a capital reserve fund within the highway budget that is looking at future purchases of trucks, and also is the potential for fire apparatus included in that reserve fund?
So we do have an equipment fund specifically within the highway budget, which we allocate money to every year. It does not touch at all about fire apparatus at all. We also are nearly done with a capital plan for the highway equipment. So not just trucks, but trailers, the chipper, the mower that we use to mow cemeteries over the course of the summer. So taking all those things and laying out a plan of how long we expect those to last. So we have a more thoughtful approach to equipment replacement and equipment purchases.
Thank you.
Further discussion on Article 7. Seeing no additional discussion, Article 7, shall the voters authorize the general fund expenditures of $2,210,907 and the highway fund expenditures of $1,635,334, of which $3,041,276 shall be raised by taxes. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 7. I am going to take the moderator's prerogative to take one step back, and I'm going to ask for your indulgence in this. I just realized that my confronting the possibility of reading the entire Article 6 again, I skipped over a step. And it is important that we do this because it is not a small item, and there are sometimes objections to these kinds of items. The motion that was made was to close debate and move on to the question. That needs to be voted on first, and then you vote on the article, because people may not want to close debate. And so I'm going to start again because I didn't state the question correctly. So I'm going to go back to the closing debate on Article 6. If that is successful, then we will move on to the question itself with no more debate. If it is not successful, you can debate it again and then move on. But I don't want any question about the intention of the body on this particular article. Are you with me? Great, thank you. So the question is whether to close debate on Article 6. This is non-debatable. So, all those in favor of closing debate on Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have closed debate on Article 6. So, to the question itself, Article 6, and without objection, I will not read the entire article. Shall the town vote to appropriate $88,582 to support social service agencies as follows here on the board and in your report? There is no debate. So all those in favor of Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And you have, in fact, passed Article 6. Thank you. Article 8. Shall the town vote to exempt from taxes for a period of 5 years the property located at 241 Garvin Hill Road, Esquibog, which is owned by the Nature Conservancy and the New England Wildflower Association and is used exclusively for the purpose of such organizations? Do I have a motion for Article 8? Yep. Ioni Minot moves. Do I have a second? Rob seconds. Is there anyone to, so without objection, the town manager will address this particular article.
Great. So again, the town voted on this in 2019. We should have voted on it last year at town meeting. We got a 1-year kind of extension from the state of Vermont. Martin, can you just go to the next slide real quick, please? So again, previously passed in 2019. If the property were to be taxed, estimated tax arrived would be $1,100 per year. So just so we're clear, and then there are open boardwalks for residents, folks to use at the bog. It's a public resource for the town of Hartland. So this just exempts the property again for 5 additional years.
Further discussion on Article 8. Yes, hold on, let me wait for Mike, please.
David Cooper, why can't this just be in perpetuity or whatever the word is? Why does it have to be 5 years is my question. Why can't it be forever?
I do not know the answer to that, but I suspect we have someone in the room who can speak to that.
Is there someone in the room who would like to speak to that?
Stacy Bradley. It is not it is not covered as a statutory exemption, so it has to be a voted exemption. And as a voted exemption, the voters of the town have to pick up the cost of the education tax on the property that they vote to exempt. So it's not allowed as a state education tax exemption under Vermont statute.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or clarification as to why it was that it was less, that it was only 5 years rather than in perpetuity? But we are open to any other discussion as well.
Hi, John Bartholomew. This is a valuable town resource, and I support the motion, the article. And I just think that we need to remind Woodstock that this property is indeed in Hartland.
So reminded. Further discussion on Article 8. Okay. The question has been called by Mike Van Buren. Is there a second to close debate on this? Second by, is it Brian's? Yep. Okay. All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. It is non-debatable. Shall we end debate on Article 8? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have closed debate on Article 8. So that brings us to Article 8. Shall the town vote to exempt from taxes for a period of 5 years the property located at 241 Garvin Hill Road, Esquibog, which is owned by the Nature Conservancy and the New England Wildflower Association, and is used exclusively for the purpose of such organizations? All those in favor of Article 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 8. Article 9, shall the voters authorize the elimination of the office of town lister and replace it with a professionally qualified assessor in accordance with 17 VSA 2651C sub B. Do I have a motion on the article? Colleen Spence moves the article. Do I have a second? Tom Kennedy seconds. Is there any discussion on Article 9? Oh, do you want to? I'm sorry. I apologize. So without objection, I will have the town manager give an explanation of the article before moving on to debate, which we will have. Okay?
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
So this is what we're doing here is intending to position Hartland for what's coming down that we can see from the state of Vermont. So in 2024, the legislature released Act 68, which is a report that outlined the challenges that towns and the state face in reappraisal and assessing services. You can read all the words on the right, or I can kind of summarize. The state sees this as a trend that's coming towards us. We are challenged in doing reappraisals because of the small nature of towns in Vermont. Many towns also struggle with getting qualified listers. There's a significant amount of training that needs to take place on a yearly basis. The anticipation from the state is that if they create larger districts, assessment districts, more appraisal firms would be interested in doing the work. Larger districts, larger parcels, it's more worthwhile for them to come. This is also a regional trend that we've seen. So Wethersfield and West Windsor have previously voted to eliminate the Board of Listers and go with a qualified assessor. Woodstock and Reading have the same article on their town meetings this year. It's important to note that we do not anticipate a change in expected service. Martin, go to the next slide, please. So currently we have one full-time lister, one part-time lister, and an additional part-time lister position that is currently open. A contracted assessor not only would fill the role of the lister, but they bring the additional resources of a larger organization, in addition to having the resources of the State of Vermont Property Valuation Review staff, the district advisors, which our listers can also access. We do anticipate a cost savings from this switch, although the exact amount at this point is unknown. So we have had preliminary discussions with assessing firms, but we have not taken any action on that, so we're ready to move if and when this change takes place. But again, I think it's important to reiterate that we do not anticipate a change in the services provided to the town, because if we eliminate the Board of Listers, the lister who is still in office would remain in office for 45 additional days, as required by state statute. In that time, the town would anticipate rehiring a part-time lister clerk to fill that 20-hour-a-week role that is currently filled by one part-time lister. The assessor would not be in the building physically. They would be available to us remotely, and as needed, they could come to town as well. Martin, just one last slide. So this is the lister's budget, just so we're clear about what we're talking about here. Right now, the lister's budget is $121,000 a year. The bulk of that is salary for the three positions. A lot of those memberships, advertising, conferences, things like that probably will likely remain, but the cost savings would be in the actual salaries to the town.
Great. Okay, further discussion on Article 9.
Hi, Stacy Bradley. I think it's important to understand and weigh the pros and cons of having a board of listers or a contracted assessor. Having a contracted assessor, it does bring knowledge of state requirements and laws, and it does bring some stability in that you have an assessor who's not subject to election cycles. And hopefully, you also have somebody who's professional and experienced. The downside to having a contracted assessor, often these companies and firms have limited availability. They lack local knowledge of the real estate, local knowledge of just the town and the properties, and often don't have the time or resources to be able to gain that knowledge. They also often are perceived as an outsider, which can be a negative for some property owners. And as an employee, they do not have the autonomy of being an elected official. And that's one of the advantages of having listers as elected officials. They are an autonomous board. They are statutorily independent elected board. They have local knowledge, local connections, local understanding of the property and the real estate market. They have dedicated state support, PV&R, which is Property Valuation and Review at the Department of Taxes, is a division there, does an extraordinary job at offering education and training, lots of classes, and as our listers have been involved and actively engaged in taking these courses and these trainings. And listers can seek professional assistance whenever they need. I've spoken with several contracted assessors, and those that work within towns, their preferred structure of working is actually to work with a board of listers. So there is sort of a third option scenario where you can have a board of listers and a contracted assessor. You get the best of both worlds. And it can be where you have a very hands-on, fully engaged board of listers who are very active and have a lot of hours and set office hours, or they can just do some of the essential statutory work such as grievances, lodging of the grand list, and some more essential minimal daily task work. So that's something to consider. Having, and often the assessors usually report directly to the listers. And having that, a board of listers, having that autonomy kind of creates a bit of checks and balances of some of the power within a municipality. You don't have the same governing body within a municipality who sets the budget and controls the purse strings, also in charge of setting the grand list and overseeing and supervising the values and the assessment of the properties within town. And you working with a board of listers and an assessor, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're having a board of listers who have knowledge and access to knowledge and resources, overseeing that lister and helping to guide and direct that lister. They understand the job. Well, if you just have a town manager and a select board doing that, they're not necessarily going to understand the details and the complexities of that job. So those are your options. Those are sort of the pros and cons. some information for you guys to weigh. Thank you.
Okay, we are on Article 9. Is there further discussion? Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Bob Quadra. I'm a lister. I'm on till 2027. I feel, and this is meant to be just from my perspective, I've worked a lot of places. I've worked for a lot of big companies. When I started here, they said I'm elected. And that was a real mind blower for me because I said, what am I being elected for? I guess Stacy explained some of that. I think it's not inappropriate for a select board or the taxpayers to be able to have a direct accountability to people who work for the town. And so I'm actually in favor of it, the article, understanding it's not a silver bullet. I think it's going in the right direction. It's not going to solve the problems of the world. It's going to make kale taste good. But I think it's going the right way. And that's really all I have to say. I really don't have the background. I've only been here 20 years. I'm a newcomer. So, thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 9. I would like, before we start, can we have, or is it a, okay, I would like, well, Phil, do you want to speak?
Phil Hobby. I'm going to speak on behalf of my colleagues on the board here. We spent an awful lot of time trying to understand the impact of my property taxes and your property taxes. We know and we follow what's going on in Montpelier. We heard from our legislators this is a primary piece. Our CLA, the common level of appraisal, is going in the wrong direction, and that's affecting us in our taxes. We have to take care of that. We discussed the pros and cons of this article. We realized that there's a lot of tradition behind an elected board of listers, and this is a change for that. But we also looked at the trends. John mentioned them. One that he didn't mention is a year and a half ago, the House passed a H480, which is going to bring appraisals to a county level or a regional level away from the towns. So they're thinking of changing this as we are. So I also recently talked with the past appraiser in West Windsor who had been a select board member, and then became a lister. And they changed a year ago at the request of those listers, and they're very, very happy with this change and the professional delivery that the contract and the company they're contracting with is the one that we are investigating. So I just want to repeat and say that we've thought an awful lot about this. I appreciate Bob's remarks, and we hope you'll consider passing this.
Further discussion? I want to go up into the balcony, and please state your name and... Okay. So the question is from Meredith Lieben. Yep. And the question is whether or not this change will speed up addressing the common level of appraisal challenge that we are facing. And so without objection, so the way I'm going to do this is if there is a clarifying question that the town manager has the unique ability to be able to respond to, I'm going to ask him to respond. But unless there's a direct question, we're going to keep it to the voters here, if that works. Great. But with this one, I think you are in a position to respond to this question.
Sure. So not directly to answer your question. So the CLA has been trending down, as we all are aware. We recently put out a request for proposals to do reappraisal across the town. It was due last Thursday. We anticipate kind of reviewing them this coming week and scoring them and selecting a contractor to do reappraisal. The likelihood is that work probably won't take place until 2028 or 2029, though. And this speaks to the trends that we were talking about in that there's only a handful of reappraisal firms who are qualified to work in the state of Vermont. And when we face these challenges of jurisdictions with 1,000 parcels or 2,000 parcels, it's not as appealing to them as a jurisdiction that might have 20,000 parcels, right? So no, this article won't directly relate to the CLA. However, I did want to say that we are working on that.
Okay. Further discussion? Yes, please. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, Jennifer Grant. So because we don't require zoning permits here in Hartland, I know we've had some problems with properties being built or expanded or improved without that being reflected on the tax rolls. I would like to hear under the current system versus the proposed system, how that problem might be better addressed by one system versus the other.
So, Jennifer, the short answer is, with the implementation of the construction permit, we did we're capturing a lot more of that kind of off-the-books construction that was going unnoticed. And again, to reiterate, we will continue to have a part-time person in the office 20 hours per week to be doing those things, to do inspections and things like that. When there is a need to do larger inspections, they would work with the contracted assessor to do that. But again, we will have that part-time staff person, a Town of Hartland employee here physically. It would be, we have a shared database that we use to capture construction permits as they come in. So they come into me, they get authorized, it gets flagged to the lister's office as it stands right now.
Further discussion? Yeah, we'll go here and keep the microphone, then we'll come over here.
Sarah Bruce. What is the, Tom, or over here, what is the time frame of this proposed change? Because you just mentioned that you're currently working on lining up reassessments and that you don't expect them to be until 28 or 29. So we're talking 3 or 4 years. So that's just in case this doesn't pass? Because what's the time frame of this? And I guess the only other thing that I think about is that we currently have one full-time and one part-time person in the Lister office, and you are saying the proposed change, and there are positives to it surely, but you're going to have one part-time. So are there any involvement possibilities, employment possibilities beyond that one part-time person with the change?
So we'll do the first part of your question first. I think it's important to notice that the CLA and the reappraisal are separate from this discussion. This is about moving away from the unelected board of listers to a contracted assessor. Independently of that, we are going through a reappraisal. That's happening no matter what. That was happening before this, that will continue to happen. We'll continue to work on that tomorrow and in the coming years. To the second part of your question, correct, we have one full-time lister, one part-time lister, both elected positions. If the article passes, we would rehire or hire a part-time lister clerk, whatever the title may be, for that 20 hours a week, which is what the part-time lister currently does. What the future may hold, whether that is sufficient in 2 years or 5 years, we don't know the answer to that. But that is the anticipated need for the town of Hartland as it stands today.
Okay. I would prefer to keep going, and then we'll come back around if there's still need for it. So, in the back there.
Hi, Chris Nippenberg. I hear two options out: keep what we've got, eliminate it, and go with a hired agency with a part-time person. But Stacy also mentioned another sort of hybrid solution. I'm curious as to whether that was considered and what the thoughts were about that. And B, just to put forth the idea of when we have outside companies coming in who don't know, I think Stacy's points are pretty well taken, that we have less recourse and less of the community pieces that allow us to make allowances for different circumstances in that way because folks don't know the town. And just to speak to that, when I was working on issues around speeding in town, which doesn't sound like it's relevant, but it is, when I talked to the then new person who was coming in as a lieutenant for the state police, asked about a speed cart, he then gave to his folks to put where the speed cart was. They put the speed cart right down by the fire station where everybody knows the cops hang out anyway. So the data that they collected was there was no speeding, and so therefore there was no issue. So and what he basically said is, I don't know the town. And so I just want to bring that up as a mitigating factor. So the question for you is, was this third hybrid solution considered, and what your thoughts were? And then my opinion that maybe we want to have a little bit of town revolving in there.
Given that that's a policy question, I would prefer someone from the select board to answer whether those other options were considered. Is that?
Lee, do you mind if I try to answer that real quick, and then we can pass off to the board?
Okay.
So I think it's important to, and I'm not trying to emphasize this, it would be a contracted assessor with a part-time person who would likely be a Hartland resident. So there is that local knowledge would remain.
Okay.
To assuage that concern.
Yep. So that's. But I would. There's someone from the select board, as they confer, want to answer the question if there was another. Yeah, please. Thank you.
I'll just say two quick things.
Identify
Jim Riley, Select Board. Thank you. We tried to analyze several options. That exact option we didn't spend a lot of time on, but we believe we arrived at the correct option. The other thing I'll point out is that, unless there's a write-in campaign, tomorrow we only have one part-time lister because nobody's running for the open slot. Given the direction the region is going, I personally think this is the right way to go.
Okay. Okay. Just checking up in the balcony. Doug? Oh, sorry. We're going to go to the balcony. Yes, in the back. Yes.
Sarah Taylor. We just heard that there's a huge shortage of assessors in the state of Vermont to the extent that we can't do a reappraisal for 3 or 4 years, it sounds like. So is there confidence that we would even be able to find or hire a professionally qualified assessor to replace our current listers?
Okay. So Sarah Taylor asking, given there seems to be a shortage of qualified assessor, appraiser firms in the state, are we confident that we could find someone to do that work on a contracted basis?
I am confident that we could find someone. Again, we've had preliminary discussions with folks who would be interested in doing the contracted assessing. We simply can't sign a contract until the article either passes or doesn't pass. So we have someone in place and ready to go if the article passes.
Okay. We'll come back down to here on the aisle.
Hi, I'm Doug Linnell. I used to be an assessor and a lister in town. This has been an interesting problem for me because I can see both sides of this. There's the trend at the state level and other places is to have a larger assessing organization, let's say, for all the reasons mentioned. For a lot of towns, it is getting harder to have all the expertise required for every single town. I personally, I guess, would say I am in favor of this article because I do think that's the way the wind is blowing, despite all the tradition and all of the local knowledge, I think we're not going to totally lose the local knowledge, but I think it is moving us in the right direction. Thank you.
Further discussion? I'm going to go to the back of the room, and then we'll go up top.
Bettina Reed. As a member of the Board of Civil Authority, we hear the tax grievances. Normally, a property owner attends those hearings and states what their problem is. And also, one of the listers is there to show what the town's findings were and answer questions. And I wonder who, if this article passes, who will be attending those grievance hearings to answer those questions?
Okay. I think that's a clarifying
Sure.
procedural question.
Bettina, either the part-time person who works in the office, and if there was a need for additional knowledge, the contracted assessor could attend those grievance hearings as well.
Okay. Is there?
Colleen Spence, I'm interested in what the cost change might be. It's hard for me to want to vote for this without some numbers to look at, and I haven't done my homework, so I don't know about what the benefits or negatives are so much. I'm hearing that it's trending, but not sure I care about whether something's trending or not. So that's my question, is about money. Do you have
Okay.
any sense of what the change might be in cost?
Okay, so Colleen Spence has asked about the financial implications of this particular motion. Will it save money? Will it cost more? And turn over for specifics.
So we don't know the exact savings, but we do anticipate a savings. Colleen, I can tell you that in a neighboring town that is similar, so largely rural residential without a significant downtown or industrial base, in 5 years, their costs went from $40,000 a year to $10,000 a year.
Okay. Further questions? We're going to go to this side, and then we'll come back down here. Yep. Yes, please.
Hi, Jennifer Wade. I'm just curious, the language that you're using is actually not what you're describing. You're saying that we should get a contracted assessor firm, but they were also keeping a part-time lister, and in the language it says we're eliminating the office of the lister.
Okay, so Jennifer Wade asked for clarification because it sounds like we are keeping a part-time lister when the article is actually eliminating the position or the board of listers. So,
Correct. So we would be eliminating the elected board of listers. The lister who is currently in office to 2027 would, under state statute, remain in that position for 45 days after today. In that time, the town would post and hire a part-time lister clerk to fulfill the role and similar duties that one of the part-time listers currently does.
but not elected. Right. Okay. Yep.
Ione Minot. I happened to attend the Woodstock Town meeting on Saturday, and they've got the same question, but their intent is to let their current listers get enough education to become assessors and be rehired, or be hired. So I thought that's a different thing from what had been brought up here, and already I see the select board members going, oh? So I just thought I'd say that. But that's Woodstock.
Referencing Woodstock seems to be a habit in today's town meeting. Okay. Yes. So Susan Riley is asking if we are to contract with an outside firm, how long will that contract be for?
Susan, I don't know because we don't have a signed contract with them, but I would anticipate it being either a 1 to 2 year contract that we would get the opportunity to revisit after that time, which would be every year or 2 years. Yeah. We could. So just to repeat the question.
Yes. So the question is, could we change our minds? Was the quick follow up.
Right. I mean, I believe the answer to that question would be yes, we could change our minds if we were unhappy with the services being provided at that time.
So I believe, just sort of on a parliamentarian basis, you are voting to eliminate this particular role in the town, which is an elected board of listers, and that to undo that, if you support it, you would need to bring another article forward to be able to do that. I believe that would be allowable, but just on a procedural basis, you are eliminating it, and that's different from the ability for the select board to be able to reinstate that elected office. Yep. Okay, all the way in the back. Please. Okay, please state your name. Yes, thank you. So Bob Bidby is asking if, and let me make sure I get this right, if we are eliminating this board of listers, how will that increase the number of appraisers that are available to do the work, assuming there will need to be more? Am I capturing it correctly? Okay.
So I guess the answer is it will not. The elimination of the board of listers would not increase the amount of firms available to do appraisals in the state of Vermont.
Question and an answer. Okay. Other questions on Article 9? So I want to make sure that anyone who hasn't spoken already has the chance to be recognized. Yes, please. Nope. There, now. Yeah, let's try that just in the interest of time.
Thank you, John. I think it's appropriate for Stacy to identify herself as a lister if she hasn't already, if she speaks. Stacy Bradley, I think Stacy Bradley did not identify herself as a lister when she first spoke. Just a question.
I'm not sure it's a requirement, but you have identified Stacy as a lister. I think that is safe to say. Yes. Okay. Before we go to folks who have already commented, is there other discussion of Article 9? Yep. Right here. Let's try this. The mic there. There we go. That'll work.
Mr. Town Manager, did I hear you correctly when you said that involved in the savings that we could realize, that the hired lister would be $10,000 a year? No.
No, that was no.
There'd be the part-time lister who we would still employ is a certain percentage of a certain chunk of money, and then the hired professional would be an additional amount of money, but less than, it would still represent a savings.
That is the anticipation. I think in talking with towns who have gone through this process for a handful of years now, the savings would be likely increased year over year as the contracted assessor becomes more familiar and comfortable in the town in which they are working.
Okay, that clarifies. Now my question would be, I'm not clear on how the appraisal system works. Would this be done, I mean, it's not a town-wide, would this be only a percentage of residents in the town that rotates through? I just never did understand that. Or is it a town-wide that this person comes in, helps us through that process, and then for 3 years, we aren't using them as much. I'm not clear on how their role, what their role is. Do you understand my question?
I believe I do. So the question is, how would the appraisal work? Is it cyclical or things along those lines? So again, I think it's important to separate the reappraisal versus the contracted assessor and listers. The reappraisal is happening, something that towns are required to do every 6 years. There's a limitation on the number of reappraisal firms who are qualified and able to work in the state of Vermont, so we're limited there. This is unrelated to the article at hand here, though. The reappraisal is unrelated to the article at hand.
Okay. More discussion on Article 9 from those who have not spoken yet. Okay. With that, I'm going to recognize someone who's already spoken. Get her hopefully a working microphone. Tap the top. It's technical support calling. Okay, there we are. Yes.
Hopefully it's working now. We'll see how long this lasts. So to address some points that have been brought up, my name is Stacy Bradley. Yes, I am a lister. I've been a lister in town for 7 years. I have completed all the course requirements of the state to be able to be a Vermont Master Property Appraiser, which I am submitting my documentation and application for this year. I have recently been...
All right, let's use this one for right now. Thank you.
I've also just, at the beginning of this year, been appointed a hearing officer for the Vermont Division Property Valuation and Review. Hearing officers hear tax appeals beyond the Board of Civil Authority level across the state. Obviously, I would not be hearing any tax appeals at that level for this town due to conflict of interest. Talking about trends, so I've been closely following what's been going on in Montpelier as far as the bill having to do with reappraisal and assessment and so on and so forth, that they're really tying in with the education funding. Right now, as of last Thursday, the current form of the bill that has to do with reappraisal and possible assessment districts is actually not taking assessment to a regional level. It's looking at taking reappraisals to the regional level and having potentially state employees or a selected employee from the region municipalities oversee reappraisals in all the towns within that district. But have local listers and local assessors still doing the work of the grand list at the local level. That's strongly the direction it happens to be going right now. They pulled back from having grand lists being overseen by a municipal district. As far as listers go here in town, yes, at the end of the day today, there is one lister that is there, but the select board has the authority and power to appoint other listers if people step forward. They have that ability to do that. I would also like to point out that actually that means there should be 2 lister vacancies on the ballot, and there is only 1. So just to bring that up. But yes, those are the trends. That's what's going on. You know, reappraisal is a complicated thing. It's not going to happen any faster by going to this model. And I guess that's all I have to say at this point.
Okay. We're going to, right, further. Okay, so the, Jeff Bell has moved to close debate on Article 9. If you approve this, it means that we would go straight to the question. Is there a second to close debate? Richard Waddell seconds. This is non-debatable. All those in favor of closing debate on Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have closed debate on Article 9, which brings us to the question. Article 9, shall the voters authorize the elimination of the office of town lister and replace it with a professionally qualified assessor in accordance with 17 VSA section 2651C sub B? All those in favor of Article 9, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please say yay. Nay? Nay. The ayes appear to have it. Anyone who would like to ask for a division is welcome to. There is a request for a division and a second? Okay, so I would ask for a couple of JPs to please come forward and please help me with counting. We've got Tom and Pat, are you coming forward? And Bill. Okay, I think that should do it. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to ask for, I think we're going to do it with standing. Okay, and for those of you who are standing, like you don't have a chair, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you are in the affirmative, and you can vote because you are a citizen. Does that work for everyone? Okay, and so I'm going to ask, Tom, if you can get the upper, and Bill, if you can both count the upper, and then if you guys can both count the lower, so you can separately, so you can figure out what the total number is, and hopefully we'll get to the same number. Okay? So, all those in favor of Article 9, please stand and remain standing. Why don't you come up here? It's a little bit complicated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22. I've got 22. It's easier up here. Okay. Okay. That's what I got. Okay. Okay. So, great. Everyone please be seated. Those, yes. They are eligible to vote. Yes, a good point. So the four people who, were you in the affirmative or were you in the affirmative of this last vote? Yes? Yes? 4. Okay, all, not you, yes, right, okay. 1, 2, 3, and you were not in the mix, so we will go 4. Okay, all right? Okay, will everyone opposing Article 9 please stand? Or if you're already standing, please raise your hand. Or if you cannot stand, for whatever reason. What, 20? 18. Okay, and then of the folks up here, is there anyone who is opposing the motion? You included yourself, okay. Okay, everyone can take a seat, please. Yes, I think so. Okay, the vote, the count by division is 66 in favor and 32 opposed. And you're satisfied with that method? Okay. Then I will determine that Article 9 has, in fact, passed. Okay. Moving on to Article 10. Shall the voters authorize the Select Board to sell the North Hartland School Building along with sufficient land for a building lot? Do I have a motion? Chet Pesho moves. Do I have a second? Brian Straffolino seconds. We have a motion and second for Article 10. Is there a presentation, to be made?
Martin, go ahead. So currently the North Hartland School exists as two distinct parcels, the school and the park. It was never merged into one parcel. So you can see on the right, or sort of see on the right, the school building is the one on the right side of that image that has the circle drive on it, and then the park down below. There you go, that's the school, that is the park. The school parcel is basically right along the top of the hill, right along the top of the bank, if you're familiar with the park. So if we were to sell the school, the park would remain the same, the sliding hill would remain in town ownership. Martin, go ahead, one slide. There was a North Hartland School Committee that met beginning in February of last year to determine the opportunities and limitations of the North Hartland School Building. I do want to take the opportunity to thank all of those people who were involved in the committee, especially Kimberly Gibbs, who kind of led the charge. As we met, it became clear that there was significant questions about the building itself. So we contracted with a home inspector in May to inspect the building. There was numerous deficiencies noted in that inspection, in ADA access, the chimney needs replacement, there's some water issues. It's likely that the building has both asbestos and lead paint in it. Following up on that, along with some significant electrical concerns. Following up on that, we got cost repairs, and the cost repairs for the building were about $200,000. Martin, can you go back one slide now, please? So the rehabilitation of the existing structure is not only limited by the fact that building repairs are estimated to be about $200,000 or more, but also there was a limited future use identified through the North Hartland School Committee meetings. There was a lot of ideas, but there's not a group waiting to use it on a regular basis. There is existing space, outside space in the park, the North Hartland Green. We have other available spaces in Hartland for public meetings and community groups who may want to meet. So this article just authorizes the select board to potentially sell the building.
And the parcel
and
identified by that line?
But it would be by that line, sufficient land for a building lot, which is, I believe, the wording of the article.
Okay, there is your presentation. Is there discussion? Yes, hold on, state your name, please.
Name's Gary Tratcher, and I'd like clarification on which line, which is bisecting the entirety of it, is the actual divider between the two parcels, the dashed line or the solid line?
The one on the left, Matt. Yes.
Am I? Moderator duties as assigned. Okay, further discussion on Article 10. Yes, if you could use that mic right there, that would work.
How big is that parcel of land?
That I don't know, Rob. I believe it's just over an acre, though.
Yep.
Where, the park is still going to be in use, right? Didn't they request it or would like a pavilion of some kind to be able to use the park and be able to get out of the sun? So my question is, if we take that part away, we're going to dip into the rec area for a pavilion, and then you're going to have parking. Where is the pavilion and a parking facility going to be? I suggest we take the building down and you still maintain the property and put the pavilion up and allow for parking. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
So if you want to report on what the committee came back with and if they considered that, or if it's a policy decision, if the board could comment.
Right. At this time, I don't know that it's germane to the discussion to talk about potential reuses of the proceeds of the sale or...
So proceeds of the sale, but if there were, I'm going to go, there was a question about the use of the remaining space and the viability for options and parking, which I think is probably, if that was, was that considered as part of the decision?
So parking was discussed, and as the North Hartland School Committee met, parking as it is now is on the road when there are events, games, et cetera, on the ball fields. So there's plenty of on-road parking available as it exists today.
Okay. Anyone in the select board who was involved in this discussion want to add anything? No is a fine answer, but okay.
Phil Hobby. I think the board carefully went through the report that was given to us, and some of us actually participated in the committee. The pavilion was just one option, and we as a board thought that the best option going forward is what the article is saying. We need the town permission to sell a property, and that's what we're asking to do. And maintaining the park, which has tennis courts and swings, and as John alluded to, a sliding hill.
Okay. Jim, if there's a...
Jim Riley, I would also point out that there would be an expense. It would be an expense to take that building down effectively, right? Especially if there's asbestos in it.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10. So Dan is asking whether the building has any historical significance and whether there would be anything in the sale process that would protect that historical integrity. Yes.
Clyde Jenny here. That building was built in 1955 as a result of war veterans coming home in the 40s and producing children. Because the schools were getting excessively small, the additions on the rec center, the activity center in Four Corners were all built in 55, 54, 55. And instead of adding to the existing school in White River, North Hartland, they built a separate building. So it's only 60 some odd years old, 70 years old.
Okay. So John Bartholomew is asking how much you think the property is worth and how much to expect from a sale.
We do not have that information, as this is step one in the process of the potential sale of the building.
Okay. So before we go to someone who's already asked a question, is there any other discussion on Article 10? Okay, if not, yep.
Gary Tratcher here. I think, as with the Pole property, it would be good to take a long view of this parcel and its value now and in the future for the town. Would we speak about, while there's plenty of parking along the roadway, is that something that is in the best interest? I think that perhaps removing the building and then repurposing that portion of the parcel for, be it parking or possibly a pavilion in the future, whatever, that piece of land has value to the town. Thank you.
Okay. Is there further discussion on Article 10? Yes, right here.
I'm Gordon Richardson. Is this working?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was on the board for a very long time, and this has been a sore subject, I would say, what to do with it forever. But the park is very important. And we struggled to try to rent the building, and it worked a little bit at first, but generally did not work. But I wholeheartedly agree with Gary. I think that would be a mistake to sell the property. The town doesn't have excessive amounts of property, and especially in North Hartland. I think it's valuable for the town. I can imagine a private owner not really liking people coming up on their land so they can get a run on that hill they're going to slide down. But I'm not sure how it's configured. But it seems to me that taking the building down, if that is the good decision, and having the land empty for whatever would be a good use makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10. Yes. So Peter Kearney is asking, is there an estimate for the removal of the building? Is that accurate? Yeah, okay.
Tom Kennedy, my day job is, one of the things I work in is brownfields, and this, given what the survey said with having lead and asbestos there, it will be at a considerable expense to take down that building, because you're either going to have to treat the entire structure as being asbestos laden, or you're going to have to remediate it and the like. This building is not going to fly off the market. We're just trying to see what we might be able to do with it. This is not going to be particularly saleable because of what we just talked about and this small scale, but we're just trying to see what our options are. And we may be coming back to you next year saying we need X number of dollars to take the building down and to remediate it. But we would need to do what we call a hazard building assessment. So.
Good. Yes, right here. Why don't we use that mic? Thank you.
Jennifer Grant. I forgot to identify myself the first time I talked, so it gives me a hard time. So given that we know that there's lead and asbestos in this building, is there potential liability to the town the longer that we hold it as our property?
So long as so to be clear, the building inspector did not test for lead or did not test for asbestos, but given the age of the building and the construction of the tiles in the ceiling, it is his professional opinion that there is asbestos and lead in the structure. As it is now, no. When those ceiling tiles start to fall, then we will have to clean those up, and they have to be treated as hazardous waste. It's also worth noting that it does cost the town on a monthly basis to maintain the building as it is. We maintain heat. There's been a history of vandalism, which we are trying to address. So there is a continued expense on a recurring basis for just continuing to own the structure as it sits vacant.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10 from anyone who has not spoken already on this article? Anyone? Okay. Oh, you've already spoken on the article. Anyone else who has not spoken on the article? Have you spoken on the article? No. Okay. There we are.
Ione, Minot. I'm just thinking that, as Gordon touched on, we're not sure what someone who bought this property, a future potential buyer, what they'd want to do with it and how they'd feel about having the park next to it. And by the same token, how safe the town would feel about townspeople being able to use the park based on whatever got put in this, what a buyer might put in this location. Thinking the way Gary and Gordon were talking about the long-term potential of this space, I kind of like the idea of something, maybe not a pavilion for just shade, but, Hartford, I think it's in the White River Junction Village, has a performance, kind of a shell. And that's a great venue. And this already has the room for the audience, although I'm not sure of the lay of the land. Maybe the sledding hill interferes with that. But I just think we should be thinking a little more broadly at this point. And it might be that the town incurs the cost of removing the building for the sake of maximizing the town value of how to use this piece of property.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10. Yes.
Ellen Sauer. I just want to mention, and I may be incorrect, and Tom, you could correct me if I am, but it sounds like most definitely there's lead and asbestos, and I would think there would be the potential for that to be in the ground as well. So that would decrease the value or potential use of that piece of property.
Further discussion on Article 10 for those who have not commented or participated in the discussion. All the way in the back, please. Name? So Charles asked whether, if the building is taken down and it has lead and asbestos in the building, does that limit what the remaining parcel can be used for? Does the parcel automatically become a brownfield and limit what we could do with it?
No. The answer is no.
Answer is no. Okay. From two sources. Yes. Okay. Additional discussion on Article 10 from those who have not participated so far. Yep. Andrea? Yep. Well, I'm going to start with it. Andrea went first. So that's, yeah.
Andrea Ambrose. I
I know it's hard to make a decision on a lot of hypotheticals and non-information or factual information, but the one fact we know that once the property is gone, it's gone. And I would concur with Gordon and Gary that this presents a lot of really good community opportunity. I don't know if some of you are aware, but I acquired I guess you'd call it a brownfield, recently at 9 Merritt Road. Maybe some of you had driven by and seen what it looked like, and I can tell you that it can be cleaned up. Yes, it does cost some money. That was out of my own personal accounts, but as one person, I was able to do it. And it will sit there and just be available for some future opportunity. I don't know what that opportunity is yet, and it may be for the community. But needless to say, it's there, it's available, it can happen, and once it's gone, it's gone. And we have no zoning in this town, and we do not know what or who will take interest in that acre of land and what they might potentially do with it.
More discussion on Article 10. Yes.
It's Trace Tancredi, and I'm asking to call the question.
Okay. Question on Article 10. A motion has been made to end debate on Article 10. Is there a second? There is a second. We have... Okay, so it's non-debatable. All those in favor of ending debate on Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and we have voted to end debate on Article 10. That brings us to the question, Article 10, shall the voters authorize the Select Board to sell the North Hartland School building along with sufficient land for a building lot? All those in favor of Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. The nays appear to have it, but yes? A division has been requested. Is there a second for a division? Okay, there has been a second. We will, can the JPs who participated the last time please come forward? We're going to do this in the same process. It is. It's... What's going on? Oh, you can't see. Okay. So
I come up here and count.
So we don't. All right. So to speak.
No. Yes. No.
So you guys will speak upstairs, and you guys will get together, and we'll do it. Okay. Okay. Here we go. All those in favor of Article 10, please stand, or if you can't stand, please raise your hand, or if you are already standing and you don't have a seat, raise your hand as well. All those in favor? This is in favor of selling. Favor of Article. I've got 15 upstairs. Up top. I got 16. Try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 16. I got 16. Okay, I think we're at 16. Okay, and then 10 on this side. Okay, I think they're doing both sides, but we'll do that at the end. Hold on. Don't count folks up who are counting. Deborah, are you sitting or standing? I'm dancing. Yeah, thanks. Got 14 on this side? And what do you got on this side? 24. Hold on. Please, sorry, you want to try this again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, and then JP's, hold on, 1 second, let me just get. So any yeses here? There's 1 yes, 2 yes, 3 yes. Okay. Okay. All those opposed to Article 10, please stand. Raise your hand if you can't stand or if you're already standing. We actually have, we have to count, so 1, 2. I got 40. 40. Who is
21, 21 up there.
21. And who's opposed? Is it 1, 2, 3? Okay. Okay, please listen to the results of your division vote. Those in favor, 38. Those opposed, 68. Are you satisfied with that vote? Okay. In which case, Article 10 fails. Article 11. To transact any other business necessary and proper under this warning. I'm going to recognize the person in the back who will identify herself. Can you, right in the back, there you go. It's coming, it's.
Tony Vendetti. I'm just giving a short, very brief, I'm sure you're all as hungry as I am. For the latest iteration of a Hartland newsletter, we accosted many of you this morning and gave you copies of it. This is something that several of the folks in town have been talking about for a very long time, a year or more. We met together in the fall, and there was a request by a town official that we have it ready for town meeting day, and so it is. There is precedent for a newsletter in Hartland. Some of you will remember Herb Ogden, who had Hartland News, and others will remember Bob Peeler, who put together the Hartland Voice in the 80s. Excuse me? And Carolyn Bowery, absolutely. We felt, I think many of us felt put off by the ability to come together given the pandemic. It was a hard time People were separated from one from another, and we hid in front of our screens. This is an attempt to bring us together, to report on the uniqueness of our community, help neighbors get better acquainted, and encourage active participation in community affairs. We are eternally grateful to Hartland Community Arts. They've let us park our bus under their umbrella, and they have paid for this first edition of the Hartland Base. This is all volunteers, and we especially want to mention Barbara Peck, who digitized this and made us look as beautiful as it is. Thank you, Barbara. A last note, this is a work in progress. We hope to continue a monthly edition if we can manage it. There are only 3 of us working on it. Well, 3 or 4, and then there are others who contribute little bits and pieces. We're hoping for a monthly edition. We'll see you next month, we hope. And anything else I have to say? There's lots of information in here about how to get in touch with us. Give us your ideas, give us your thoughts, give us your stories. We're very interested in your stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and a reminder that under this article, this is for updates, presentations, nothing can be binding. So, yep, over here. You need to use the mic and identify yourself, please.
Matt, there may be a slide.
Please identify yourself.
I'm sorry, Jeffrey Bell, 3/6/1942.
Almost happy birthday. Is there a slot? Do we have a slide? I don't think we do. Unless there. Okay.
Is it up? Do we have it?
Do you know?
While they're doing that, as I said, I'm Jeffrey Bell. In 2022, the Select Board of Hartland agreed to make the town a town of inclusion. That means to celebrate anybody who comes here, whether they're white, black, Republican. I'm not sure about Republican, but maybe. Immigrants or not. And what that declaration, if I'm going to sit, and then I'm going to read it to you, and if that comes up there. The Hartland, Vermont Declaration of Inclusion. Recognizing that diversity strengthens and enriches a community, the town of Hartland denounces discrimination and welcomes all persons, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity, age, or disability. We strongly commit ourselves and our institutions to a fair and equal treatment of everyone who lives or works in or passes through our 3 villages. We strive to ensure that all of our plans, policies, programs, procedures, statements, and actions reflect this commitment and support a town in which all people feel safe and express their opinions to participate in the community. Why I'm asking you to hear this is this was done in Hartland by our select board in 2022. And so the purpose of me being the last person to talk, or the next to last, is to please have people recognize what an important thing that was and is. And I ask that that this be added to whatever the discussion, whatever is talked about afterwards. So I thank you for letting me share that.
Okay. Any more items under Article 11? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moves to adjourn. Do I have a second? Deborah LeQuire. Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.